अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode of Hafta. In the midst of election action, lots happening around the country and at News Laundry. Manisha is just back from Uttar Pradesh.
Yes.
And she shall tell us more about that. We have a very interesting discussion. It's going to the intersection of politics and pop culture figure. But before we get into that, I have a very important announcement to make, which is that Newsable, our website and app is now accessible. At the Media Rumble, we had previewed Newsable. It's a set of features that would make our website and app accessible to people with disabilities. We launched it a few weeks ago. I think I can safely assume we are the first Indian news website that is accessible to people with disabilities. So it has stuff like read aloud, voice search, keyboard navigation, dyslexic fonts, reader mode, podcast transcript, subtitles. You can read a note about this by Chitranshu. You can click in the note, the link in the show notes below, and tell us what you think. And if you are a disabled user or you know someone who is, please mail us at subscription@newslaundry.com. I repeat, subscription@newslaundry.com, and we'd love to speak with you. And I had mentioned a couple of haftas ago that this idea had come to us at an event, at a News Laundry event. A young subscriber tapped me on the back, and I turned around and I started talking to him. He said, your website should be accessible to people who cannot see. And I realized he wasn't looking at me because he couldn't see. And then he told me what all other problems he has because he likes to consume. So he heard me say this. So he sent me a voice note, and with his permission, I said, may I use it? So he said, yes. So I'm just going to play this voice note of our young subscriber.
Hello, Abhinandan sir. It's me, Uttar, and I really want to thank you for making your website accessible for people with disabilities. And my News Laundry subscription has expired, unfortunately. So today I was listening to your Anil Hafta program, and you are just thanking that individual who just suggested you that to please make our website accessible for people with disabilities. And you would be happy to know that that person is me. I was the one who in the News Laundry subscriber event, I suggested you that please make your website accessible for people with disabilities so that they can also enjoy the news. So I'm very happy to see the progress of News Laundry. It is.
So that was Uttam. Thank you so much, Uttam. Forever in your debt. And what I loved most about your message is the first time you referred to News Laundry, you said our website.
Yay.
The second time you said your website, but I would prefer if you call it our website because it is our website. And I will show you just to what extent it's our website. Next month, you will see something else that News Laundry will do that I think again is going to be a first. So thank you, Uttam. This was your idea. That's how it started. And I hope you like it. And Uttam, by the way, is a professor in Chhattisgarh. And if you're ever in town, come by, and you should be on the Hafta with us as well because you had kicked off this entire series of events for 1 year, which led to this. So on that note, let me introduce our panel. Joining us in the studio is our Chief Justice in Training, Anand, Vardhan. You see, every week it gets elevated. Anand is actually studying law at Law Fac. So first he was a student. Next week I introduced him as a ASG. Then he was Solicitor General. Then he became judge. Now he is Chief Justice in Training. Manisha Pande, who is just back from UP, and she'll tell us about that.
Hello.
Joining us in this, not in the studio, on Zoom, is our colleague Jayashree. Welcome, Jayashree.
Hello, hello.
And our two guests, Santosh Desai. Hi, Santosh.
Hi there.
I'm sure most of our audience know who you are. I mean, I've read his columns for the longest time. He's a columnist, he's a media critic and author. He's currently the managing director and CEO of Future Brands. He was previously the president of McCann Erickson, one of India's premier advertising agencies. He's a postgrad of IIM Ahmedabad and spent 21 years in advertising.
Lord.
So Santosh,
Very apt CV for this discussion.
Santosh,
That's an ancient bio, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I quit advertising 15 years ago.
But I think advertising as it existed 15 years ago doesn't exist. So
that is true. So I pretty much quit advertising when it was advertising.
And also joining us is one of our regulars on Hafta, Anurag Minus Verma. Hi, Anurag.
Hi.
Thank you. audience already knows Anurag. He's a poet, filmmaker, author. He's host of the Anurag Minus Verma podcast. I hope you guys listen to it. The link is in the show notes below. You can check it out. He writes pieces that have been regularly published in several publications, including The Print and The Hindu. And he has been on Hafta a few times. Now, before we move into the discussion, here are the headlines. A huge ad blitzkrieg on. You'll be bombarded with ads on your YouTube everywhere by political parties. And we have a discussion on that with experts on making stuff on social media and also the former head of a leading ad agency in India. And Prime Minister Modi on an interview giving spree. In the last 1 week, I think he's given over a dozen interviews. And we will have a music video about that also coming up next week. And the rest of the headlines, Jayashree will tell us.
Quite a few he's given. And today the Aaj Tak one will come,
Yeah,
right?
there's a third one to India today.
Multiple anchors within the same channel.
Organization. So today's is the third one to to India Today
so,
group.
And compare that to, say, Congress at least. Rahul Gandhi has not given any interviews.
Because
Not even, I mean, television, I guess they shouldn't, because there can be no fair kind of hearing, but not even to, like, say, YouTube channels or digital media. So they're really like, he's just focusing on his YouTube and Instagram.
Right.
Yes, so here are the other headlines for the week. The Supreme Court on Friday granted interim bail to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal till June 1st so he can campaign in the Lok Sabha polls. Amethi-Rae said this is not a routine judgment and Kejriwal may be provided special treatment.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren has challenged his arrest by the ED. His plea will be heard by the court tomorrow, that is May 17th. The Supreme Court has declared the arrest and subsequent remand of NewsClick web portal founder editor Prabir Purkayastha under the UAPA as invalid and ordered his immediate release. He was released last night.
And I would just like to point out to all those, I mean, I don't want to address Twitter trolls because Twitter is where the dredges of who have no one to say anything to vomit and unload. But even journalists who have large significant, they said, if you are, not guilty, you have nothing to fear. You bloody dim-witted shits. The guy has spent at the age of 74 a significant amount of time in jail and the arrest is illegal. So before you vomit words out of your mouth, think a little bit. Because tomorrow someone throws you in jail and say, we'll get you out 3 years later, 3 months later. It is not law following its course. So understand governance and law and order before jumping into journalism. And this especially goes out to broadcast journalists. Most of you are such uneducated buffoons. If you had been in a world where you say meritocracy, we are tripartis, but we are meritocracy. In a true meritocracy, at least an organization that values news, you would not even get a job of opening a door. Many of you sitting in suits in prime time. Remember that and read the order of this judgment and shut up. Sorry for that outburst. Please continue in a most calm manner like we usually do in Newslaundry.
Yes, so back to serious stuff. The fourth phase of the 2024 Lok Sabha polls, voting took place on May 13th. There was voter turnout of 67.7% and the next phase is on May 20th, which is Monday. In Mumbai, the BMC on Thursday called off the search and rescue operations at the Ghatkopar site where a 120-foot hoarding collapsed on a petrol pump. It killed 16 people and injured 75 others.
Sorry, before you continue, I just want to ask if any of you know, I saw some of the details of this case. We're not going to discuss it in detail right now, but it was Asia's biggest hoarding. Today, no one is claiming ownership of it. The agency said we had rented out for years. Our rent has expired. It's not our job to bring it down. Apparently, the railway, whose land was also partially on, knew it was illegal. No one brought it down. I mean, the size of that thing. And after it collapsed, till like 24 hours later, people were screaming from inside. Like, no one came for rescue. I mean,
they rescued the last two, I think, late last night. Or they pulled, or not rescued, they pulled out 2 more bodies late last night. So, and this was while also I think the Prime Minister's rally was taking place, 10 minutes away from it.
I mean, Bombay really needs to, every monsoon there's a story that comes out of there, as horrific as this.
I mean, horrific, okay, but just
walls collapsing,
how
bridge,
does this happen? I don't
manholes.
understand this.
See, hoarding deaths in India are more frequent than we think. In Tamil Nadu, only last year, 3 people died, and they were illegal hoardings. They were not legal hoardings. In Lucknow, In Lucknow, 8 people. Maybe in the number 16 has caught our attention.
No, but I remember, you're right, because in Delhi, when I used to work at Newstrack, Delhi, you notice Delhi, there are no hoardings, right? Because they were made illegal. There were no hoardings at all. Because a few collapsed. And at that time, I think it was a Supreme Court order, Sheila Dikshit, it was Supreme Court order. They removed all the hoardings in Delhi. So, in fact, the few you see now have just come up in the last
Actually, that's an interesting. I never noticed that, but it's true. Delhi doesn't have hoardings.
Dude, if you were when this order came out of the Supreme Court, I remember overnight, Delhi was unrecognizable. There used to be hoardings everywhere.
Unlike Bombay or even high.
And the most seen hoardings were between the two newspaper wars, Times of India,
Times of
HT.
India, correct.
Times of India,
yes, HT. Those hoardings are famous. Yes, please continue.
Yes. In Delhi, a court has framed charges of sexual harassment and outraging modesty of a woman against BJP MP Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh.
Also, the case of Bibhav Kumar, who was a former PA to Arvind Kejriwal, and Swati Maliwal, the former DCW chairperson and Rajya Sabha MP. Today, wall-to-wall coverage of that on all the primetime channels. Although, at the time of recording this, Swati Maliwal has so far still not filed an official complaint after that initial
complaint.
FIR.
And the NCW has called Vibhav.
Summoned Vibhav, yeah.
The Election Commission has summoned Andhra Pradesh's Chief Secretary and DGP to personally explain the administration's failure to contain incidents of post-poll violence in the state. So, that is very important. During voting in the fourth phase of the Lok Sabha polls, the BJP candidate in Hyderabad, Madhavi Lata, was captured on video asking women wearing niqabs to remove their face coverings so she could verify their identities. The Hyderabad police has now registered an FIR. The ED also arrested Jharkhand Minister and senior state Congress leader Alamgir Alam in a money laundering case. This is days after the agency seized rupees 34 crores cash from his personal secretary's domestic worker.
Wow.
The Supreme Court granted bail to Gautam Navlakha, who was accused in the Bhima-Koregaon violence case. It noted that the trial in the case is not likely to conclude anytime soon. The Supreme Court has also summoned the Uttarakhand Chief Secretary to appear before it on May 17th over the state's lackadaisical approach in containing forest fires. 5 people have died as 1,300 hectares of land were burnt in forest fires this year.
Which is tragic because there's such lovely hills there, but we don't want to say Newslaundry impact. I mean, impact could have been because of anything, but Newslaundry has done a report on it, Hridesh Joshi. The link is in the show notes below. Please have a look at it. And this is second piece. This is the video, but he's done an earlier piece also on forest fires. I don't know if it was in the same region though.
Yeah, he's done another one, but that was this time he's only done one. It's an annual thing. So we sent him earlier also about 2 years. I think the year before this last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and finally, the United States said on Monday it does not believe a genocide is taking place in Gaza, but that Israel must do more to protect Palestinian civilians. Also, a former Indian Army officer, Colonel Weber Anil Kale, was killed when his UN vehicle in Gaza was struck by an Israeli tank.
And there's been no mention of it on any of the...
No. There is also that final section which you can read out. Is Hafte.
Is Hafte ki adla badli in the crisscross of this week. Haryana, former JJP MLA Satvinder Rana joined Congress. Again in Haryana, BJP MLA Rohit Revdi joined Congress. Haryana Congress leader Manmohan Bhandana joined BJP. Again in Haryana, Kailasho Saini, a former MP from Kurukshetra, has decided to return to Congress. And in Chandigarh, Congress leader Subhash Chawla has joined the BJP. And that's what's happening. And the former Anand, I forget his first name, minister in Kejriwal cabinet, he's still awaiting his acceptance of his resignation because I think he wants to in the BJP. And his resignation still has been accepted. So, I don't know.
Is that Rajkumar Anand?
Yeah, I think that's his name.
BSP. He has gone to BSP.
BSP, sorry, correct. But his... So, on that note, let's get straight into the discussion about the political ads. So, let me start by our brands expert. By the way, Santosh, just curious, how do you react? And I mean, I know you lead a more respectable life than me, so you don't have to be so offensive. But how do you feel being identified in the same kind of zone as an expert as Sohail Seth?
Interesting question. Next question.
Next question. Because Sohail has been the brand expert for the longest time, and I've always listened to him. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy saying? Like, what shit does he talk? But anyway, so, I remember when we started Newslaundry the first year, 2012, we had a round table.
Right.
I know you've been here. I don't know if you were in that one with Pratap Suthan, who was the architect, who was the creative director behind the India Shining campaign.
Right.
And he had said on our platform that it was never meant to be an election campaign. It was a campaign selling India to the world because it did so well in New York as a campaign. They said we'll use it as the election campaign. It bombed. And Pramod Mahajan was blamed for that. And so he was a creative director. Those days, ad agencies meant something. Creative directors was like a thing. Like, dude, he's the creative director of McCann, like Santosh. These are big, important positions. Seeing what an ad agency's role was then in a political campaign and today, do you see a difference? And then we'll come to the specific ads of this campaign.
No, look, I agree with the fact that overall advertising agencies were a much bigger force than they are now. I think for a whole host of reasons. We don't need to go into those. But I would argue that when it comes to political advertising, I think advertising has been a very, very insignificant player then and continues to be so now. I don't think, even though advertising was in its heydays earlier, for political advertising, the role of political advertising in India was marginal. I always believe that it has always been marginal. And India Shining and all, I know a lot is spoken of its negative effect, but I rarely know of any campaign that has worked positively. And I think it's easy post facto to sort of connect the dots and say that there was overconfidence and it was oversold. But frankly, the reach that look, the vote is our largest, distributed, the most deeply distributed product in the country. I mean, nothing is more deeply distributed than the vote. And, advertising simply fails when it has to reach an audience beyond a certain comfort zone that it has. And therefore, it's by definition, its impact. When you look at the scale of elections and the scale of the electoral audience, the impact of advertising has always been minuscule. So I would suggest that, even earlier when advertising was riding high, when it came to political advertising, there is not a single political ad that anybody can remember, favorably. I mean, nobody can say, oh, that was an iconic political ad. You can talk about hundreds of other product ads and say they were iconic. But which ad will you say was an iconic political ad which changed the fortunes of a party?
Well, I'd go meta. Newslaundry produced an ad about a political ad. There's this constant in 2012, Ho Raha Bharat Nirman. And then it was very badly dubbed. And this little child and her father said, इतना अच्छा फ्लाईओवर किसने बनाया पापा? हमने बच्चे टैक्स का पैसा देकर. ओ, इतना अच्छा गार्डन किसने बनाया पापा? हमने अपने पैसे देकर. And हो रहा भारत निर्माण and Sonia Ji and Manmohan would come. And then cut to me sitting with the child. She's like, इतना भद्दा ऐड किसने बनाया पापा? मैंने कहा हमने टैक्स देकर.
पापा याद है आपने प्रॉमिस किया था कि हम पार्क चलेंगे.
श्योर बेटा, अभी चलते हैं.
अरे फिर वही बोरिंग ट्रैफिक.
कोई नहीं, हम नए फ्लाईओवर से चलेंगे.
पापा ये फ्लाईओवर किसने बनाया है?
हमने बनाया बेटा.
आपने कैसे?
हम सरकार को टैक्स पे करते हैं और सरकार उससे फ्लाईओवर्स, स्कूल्स, हॉस्पिटल्स और बहुत कुछ बनाती है.
वाओ नाइस. पापा मेट्रो ये किसने बनाई है?
हम ही ने, टैक्स के द्वारा.
Oh, just like the flyovers and schools.
हाँ, बिल्कुल बेटा.
वाह, कितना सुंदर पार्क.
गेस करो किसने बनाया है?
क्या ये भी आपने बनाया?
ये भी हमने टैक्सेस से बनाया.
पापा, इतना भद्दा ऐड किसने बनाया?
हमने बेटा, टैक्सेस देके.
ओह, just like भारत निर्माण ऐड.
हाँ बेटा, सी द ब्यूटी. हर साल सरकार हमारे हजारों करोड़ रुपए लेके एड्स बनाती है और टीवी पे डालती है ना वंडरफुल?
क्या आपके पापा भी इतने बुद्धू हैं?
But Anurag, do you agree that ads play an insignificant or marginal role in political campaigns?
Not just in political campaign. I think we also mistakenly think that the ads are the only way to market, and because they are shot in high-end cameras and are better editing, so we think that they have more quality to influence, which in a certain kind of age where TV was dominating and people used to, seriously watch these ads, not just the political. I'm just also talking about I'm mostly talking about the non-political ads. But over the years, this whole idea of agencies have also changed. Now there are many different kind of agencies which are in the market. For example, let's say these influencer agencies that they have, and then there are the separate meme marketing agencies also that they have. That are in the market. So a different kind of players are there, and these ads, I think, are very small portion of their communication strategy. Mostly they are done through these social media campaign, or say these meme campaign, or let's say these spoof videos that are on internet everywhere. So these are just, I consider them very insignificant portion of their communication strategy. But since they are shot in a good camera and with better actor, we think that they are something important. But I think they are absolutely non-important in influencing anything. And even their views and everything, I don't think are they achieve that kind of a virality which, let's say, a different kind of video would achieve, a spoof video would achieve. Like, for example, if I give you the example of there was an AIB video at one point of time, which was on demonetization.
Yeah, I remember that.
It went crazy viral. Obviously, it was not. I'm assuming it was not funded by anything, but that.
अरे छुट्टा नहीं है, कितनी बार बोलूं?
कोई बात नहीं भाई, लेकिन देश तो सुधर रहा है ना।
मित्रों, आपने उनको 60 साल दिया, मुझे भी 60 साल दीजिए।
So वो 10,000 के नोट्स एक्सचेंज करने थे।
Exchange limit is only 4,000. हेलो, ओके सर, एक्चुअली लिमिट चेंज हो गया है, इट्स 4,500. एक्चुअली जस्ट लेटेस्ट रूल आया है, एक्सचेंज लिमिट इज ओनली 2,000.
Whole idea.
In fact, that's the first time we saw bare biceps, topless.
Bare bicep in that ad. And there are, if you remember, there was also Modi song on EIC which became viral. So we had this political humor or political. Obviously, they were not campaign of a party, but they have more power to influence. But these ads that we have seen on that document, I think none of them has any possibility of virality except maybe one or two ads, because that too also because that actors look similar to netas, and we are kept guessing that kaun sa wala hai. So that is the only I feel. That is the only relevance of them. Mostly, I feel there.
Jayashree, do you agree?
I mean, I agree with him completely. Also, I mean, this is the thing that every organization is trying to hack, right? I mean, everyone wants to go viral, but unfortunately, there is no set way to know what goes viral and what won't, because it completely comes down to what is the news of the day, what is the thing that takes off. The stupidest things in the world go viral and very important things don't. So I think, like Anurag said here, people are just trying to sort of throw money at anything and see what sticks. So yes, does a song work? We'll try that. Does a video work? We'll try that. Does a meme work? Because right here in Tamil Nadu, it is the memes, it is the music that really sort of drives interest in campaigns, not advertisements. So they're just trying a little bit of everything, depending on who has the biggest budget. And then something will take off on social media and get you clicks. I don't know if it even translates to any sort of like information among masses or any kind of educational experience. It's just, they just want to go viral, I think. And that is also the saddest thing. I mean, even here at Newslaundry, right, where constantly, while you report, while you're publishing stories, there is that worry about, will this be the story that will go viral? Because you want people to read it. It is important. And we're always trying to sort of sell ourselves in ways. And that's pretty much what these political parties are doing too.
Dude, I can't believe you just compared us to a political party.
Well, we could be.
Anand, Vardhan.
Besides print, which remains same because it has to produce ads in the same way, I think one big difference from a bygone era of political advertising to the present is that there is a lack of national frame. So, because earlier, if you captured Doordarshan and All India Radio, you had a national audience. So, say government ads or political parties ads. In fact, now also there is practice that Doordarshan and All India Radio allocate time to political parties, that you have this minute, this minute. But now because of the advent of first satellite television, now the internet, the attention is diffused. It is diffused to in myriad ways, and that's why it is not very, I think its magnitude is not fathomable how it is getting delivered. Earlier, you had a common consumption experience of a political ad that, okay, this came on Doordarshan, and by default you had to watch it. Now the diffusion of attention, national attention, is in so many ways that the first earlier also it was the reflex response, but it was unavoidable. Now is to skip the ad. Like any other ad, just escape political ad, just escape you. And as Santosh pointed out, that it is very difficult to get a committed voter out of comfort zone. So you are basically, if you are a committed voter of a party, they are not going to have any impact, these ads. It is only for the floating voter, very undecided voter, and these are the two things.
Yeah, I think, but these ads have very little or negligible impact on floating voters. It is essentially for your core believers
to energize them
and give them some sort of material to share, to laugh about, and for one-upmanship, which is why you'll also see most of the ads that we'll discuss today have caricatures of the opposition party. So Congress will have a Smriti in their ad, a caricature of her. BJP will have Rahul Gandhi. So it's basically fodder to like make fun of each other and indulge in this social media one-upmanship. One thing interesting, I think, with the elections that has happened, and which is a byproduct of this proliferation of vox pop journalism. I think, from YouTubers to even journalists, it's really election reporting has been overtaken by vox pops. And we also do a lot of them. And often you have those voters speaking in these vox pops who are brand ambassadors for parties. So, somebody is taking on Modi. Parties are going to cut that, Congress will cut it, or SP will cut it and make it go viral and say, ye dekho kya sahi bol raha hai, bilkul vaat laga di, or whatever. And BJP would do that for, somebody taking on
saying
Rahul.
That is more effective.
So I think in the social media arena, it's the vox pop bits that really go viral, and parties are very prompt in picking it up from the hundreds of journalistic organizations that are doing it, and even YouTubers. And I was just, Anurag was talking about like memes. I think like politically, there can't be a bigger political meme than that government auntie. Yeah. I think like when you think of political ads, I just think of her like a big gaya government. I mean, that is just so iconic. She's kind of like
she's everywhere. But
she's
okay. So,
but also that other woman, no, that war woman. Is it the same one?
War Papa.
Which became
Papa.
So
I saw lots of stories later on how the actor is going through tough times.
Yeah.
She can't step out of her house because she's being
I think
trolled.
Times of India had a story which speaks about her going through a really bad time. Obviously, because she's been memeified to like.
She says she's not getting assignments.
Yeah, because it's she's been typecast. It's like
the worst.
Amitabh Bachchan was an angry young man. She's the grateful young lady, whatever. but I just want to say that let's count the good things about ads. It is one of the best way to distribute the money that ill-gotten wealth of political parties. You need actors, you need an art department, carpenters will work, painters will work, production. I mean, as a filmmaker and having made lots of ads back in my small screen days, it is something which money goes around all over. So good, make more such ads, let the money go back into the economy. So that is one good thing. About how effective they are, I don't know about the regular ads. I do think they definitely energize the base. So it helps, so it has a domino effect. But music really helps, and I happen
jingles, jingles.
I was there, especially if it's live. If that same song is sung, I remember Vishal was very closely linked to the AAP during the first election, and he was singing outside the AAP office. They set up a stage, and I was there at that time, and I was just talking to people. Why you here? Are you a worker? People were just excited with the music, and they came. And once they came there, then they got involved in the party, because that was AAP's initial days. Same thing with the song that was sung at Ramlila Maidan during the Jan Lokpal movement. Music actually really gets people in. It joshes them up. People, so, I mean, I've seen that firsthand, but I don't know if it does the same thing on the screen that it does live. But
Can I jump in for music though? Because, so I was going to talk about political ads in Tamil Nadu, but there are no political ads. I mean, there are, but not like parties are spending budgets on it, because they're spending their budgets on music. So it also helps that parties like the AIDMK and DMK are very rooted in film, right? So they have an entire culture of music which they can bring anyway. So typically how it works is they'll release a teaser and then they'll release this entire full high definition video with the entire song, and it'll go up on YouTube and it's shared everywhere and all. But also it happens because in the early days, I remember political campaigns used to be preceded by full-fledged almost concerts where they'd set up speakers while you're waiting for the big shot to come. Then they'd play like music to these massive rallies. And this was particularly in 2014 when I was following Jayalalitha around. So they would write songs for her and they would just play on loop for hours until a helicopter landed. And then you could buy her, to start her off as audio cassettes, and then you could buy CDs of the music that is played at these rallies. And there was so much currency. They would send these vans into villages through districts.
So it had
music,
impact. So it was actually impact.
Yeah, it was like a thing. But now, now obviously those songs don't have that shelf life, but parties are still sort of making their own.
No, absolutely. I think even TMC used this really well with Khela Hobe. It was really everywhere and you were just singing it.
Yeah, but Khela Hobe was such a phenomenal term. But, Santosh, you've seen some of the ads. When it comes to, effectiveness aside, otherwise, what do you think of the ad campaign as a brand guru? Do you have any which you think are more effective than the others, or you think they're all a part of the same clutter?
No, there are some that will be a little more effective than the others, simply because of the fact that they speak to a particular, whatever it is that they're trying to amplify, they do it well. So, for instance, I think the ad that on the BJP ad that says "Ke bhi dula kaun hai," I think it takes the idea of the fact that here's a ragtag group of people, where there's no leader and there's no clear face, contrasted with the fact that you have one face that towers over everything else on the other side, and you say that and the Dula Kaun Hai is a kind of a storyline that makes sense. That kind of connects and presents it in a way that is colloquially kind of graspable. So I think and similarly there are ads I think across the board where there are some ads that will typically the idea of everything being fixed. The Congress ad where the cricket ad where
right umpire,
the umpire and everything is again as a way of bringing out the fact that here we live in a place which is totally fixed. Or the Godi ad of the media ad, which again I think makes the point that it wishes to make. I think and it does so reasonably well. The problem I have is actually coming from a sort of a advertising background. My problem is that who are you speaking to and why? One thing about energizing the base is fine. And that is a limited objective, and to that extent, these might work. But I agree with Anurag totally. I think that other forms work much better. So that being said, what my question is that actually what it should be focused on is I think Manisha said is the floating voter, is the undecided voter. There, I think what is the story? What is the opposition story? I'm not very clear as to what the opposition story there is. Because if it is just making pot shots at individual aspects of what is wrong with the BJP's governance, I'm not sure that to somebody who's otherwise a Modi voter but is started to have second thoughts, whether that is a compelling enough argument. It's not a coherent enough argument. It is not packaged in a totality. There's no large story that comes out saying this is why. If you said that the country is this the kind of country you want? If you frame it like that, as against taking individual jabs at individual points and then laughing because you think you're being clever, I just think you're missing a trick in not providing the floating voter with a powerful argument. I think on the flip side, the BJP does a little better job of telling somebody who is not really a BJP supporter but is worried about the opposition by saying that, do you really trust these jokers? Really, is this really what you want? So I think one question on this side is this the kind of government you want? Is what the BJP is trying to say. Whereas I think what the opposition should have tried to say is that is this the kind of country you want? And I'm not sure that they've articulated that, I think, in strong enough terms.
Back in your day when you were heading an ad agency, and McCann, no less, one of the biggest in the country at the time. Damn, I wish I knew you then. I used to keep sewing my ADs trying to get an ad from McCann. Anyway, and I think, what was the name of the CD I was dealing with? She was a lady. She gave us some loser Lays promo to do once. And anyway, so would you be excited about getting a contract other than not just the check that your agency will be getting, but as a project? Even if it had no impact, just as a creative pursuit, is it a project that excites you as a creative?
Yes, absolutely. Politics is there are many reasons for not taking a political project. Primary being the one that you never get paid. At least not in those times, you never get paid. So I mean, which is the reason why you didn't take political projects. But yes, I think strategically and creatively, I think it's fascinating because you're talking about the most basic thing that there is. Something that potentially, even if the advertising doesn't work, you will try and make an honest attempt to see that it works to the extent to which it can. And I think that would have been fascinating. As it turns out, I've never been involved. McCann today does the BJP campaign, but in those days, in fact, we had a policy not to do
any political
campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, I think today everyone has to take a position one way or the other. So, Anurag, before we started recording this, you said you particularly found the AAP's the worst made ads. So, I just thought the best for me was Shiv Sena, and I'm not surprised because it's Bombay based and the best talent is from. The actors are very authentic. They don't look like models.
Like Congress ads, they look like models.
Yeah, Congress ads, they look like models. Congress, even the beard is so badly done. Yeah, amateur dramatics is better. Like Modi's beard is coming off from here. Anyway, I think the Shiv Sena ads, the combination of production, casting, everything was perfect. And I was like, how appropriate. Bombay, best ad campaign. But the budget, clearly, the big budget, the Karan Johar of the ads are BJP ads, certainly.
Yes.
Yes. So, which ones did you like, did you not like, Anurag?
No, I didn't like any of these. But in terms of if you analyze it through budget thing, then BJP, it seems that they were more interested in catching up this quote-unquote Gen Z audience. Like most of their ads, it seems like they were speaking to them, like 2-3 ads, and there was one of the rap song as well, in which they are singing about hustle and everything. But there is my problem with these agencies who make these ads, because let's say we have to connect to the Gen Z, like there is a pitch, and then they think Gen Z means these 4-5 words like hustle culture, goat, and these
bro, goat, he's the goat.
It's so irritating, and I really wonder which Gen Z might be influenced by it. And the second thing is that even if you are let's say we call Gen Z term is more of a age based thing rather than, let's say, urban or something which is cool, or these words. So there can be two different kind of Gen Zs as well. Like there is one Gen Z who listens to Taylor Swift, then there is also another Gen Z who listens to Sapna Chaudhary as well in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. So we also in our mind thought that Gen Z is also a singular term, and everybody is like, dude, hey, come on, man. Like that's also a little a myth thing that these agencies don't think beyond that. So that is also one of the point of which I realized that this is one of the reasons that influence may be limited. And also about this war, Rukwadi Papa was viral, not for the good reason, but because of the negative reason. And also it became viral, mostly if you remember, was when Dhruv Rathi mimicked it in his video. So there lies another thing, that in order to make it viral, even for the negative reason, there has to be something which is absurd about them. And the second thing is there has to be some influencer involved who can, inki naya thodi paar laga de. And one more point the last point I wanted to say about that why these ads don't work for me, or maybe for the large audience, is that there is no kind of a shock value in them. Like earlier, there may be like the mimicry, when the mimicry was some form of art, or let's say when this whole resemblance thing was some point of a shock kind of a thing. But now in the age of AI, when you can recreate recreate their voice, so through and there are many memers who are making it. So I'll rather watch them because there is something shock value in, rather than doing this sasti copy of these actors and everything. So that also was my last point.
Right. Jayashree, do you have a favorite or least favorite of the campaign of all the ads we've seen? I mean, in the last 2 days, I've seen some 25 of them.
So now I feel ashamed because clearly I am an elitist, because I quite enjoyed the Congress's ads, but only because, I felt like there was something going on in it. I don't know who their target audience is, yes, like you all said, but
no, I think
enjoyed it. It was
the cricket ad was very good, which Santosh said. I think it's very, it gets the point home, for sure. That one was a good one.
I thought that one was pretty good. That media one was also quite randomly funny. But the Arnab Goswami,
but it's so niche.
But we've been,
that's the thing. So
although I didn't understand the do kursi lana, ek kursi lana, ek glass. I didn't get.
I didn't understand that, but I thought maybe
even I didn't understand. Can someone explain that ad to me? I didn't understand. Like, okay, so I didn't get that ad.
Was it? I don't know if it was saying that is there only one person rule, meaning and there's only one person who matters.
I was wondering if
meaning, but that is only, and even Amit Shah doesn't matter. I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know. And anyway, that didn't seem to be the point of the ad, but I don't know what it was trying to
Even
say.
I think it was to do with.
No, I think it meant that हमें एक person से direction आता है.
No, I think it was to do with, they said, jitna representation utna hak. So I didn't understand that ad. It's
So clearly, the ad is failed.
Clearly the ad is not. But
maybe
maybe
it was
we can
about
just.
the caste census is what that's what I.
Yes.
That ginti karo. That
correct.
was
That's
about
what I
the
figured.
caste
That
census.
count how many.
Yeah, but I
people.
don't know how it connected with the fact that एक ही glass पानी ला उससे क्या
Yeah,
होगा मेरे को वो नहीं समझ आया.
I didn't understand that either. Yeah.
But so I thought, but yeah, as to the BJP ads, I thought like it just sort of, it oscillates between sort of vague stuff like 400 seats, and all like the very sort of horribly venomous ads from the BJP Karnataka and all. But also, it is just a representation of the BJP's darkest, deepest secrets, right? Though I don't know I don't know who thinks the BJP thinks otherwise, but it's their core, and this sort of fundamental, virulent sort of hatred that comes out in the BJP Karnataka ad, I think is exactly the kind of message that they want to market. So,
oh yeah, those animation ads were terrible. They were like hideous. Yeah,
The Instagram ad that they had to pull down, that was just. We were aligned. We were so rich.
That. I really want to interview the person who came up with that ad, like out of genuine curiosity. Like, what would that person be like?
But I do have a question for Santosh. Suppose. When issues like COVID, mismanagement, price rise, unemployment, all of this can't really overcome that sort of radicalization that works in these ads. But then what can the very best messaging achieve, right? Like if the message from the National Party of Governance, the BJP plays on these imagined injustices and fear and hatred and all, is there any sort of precedent where a good sense ad could respond to that? Or...
Look, I think advertising is usually not the answer, is my sense politically. But yes, a counter narrative of some kind, that you create would be the answer. So, which is the reason why, again, I have not studied this. I'm not as a it's not an assignment that one has done. But that's why it seems to me that if there is a counter narrative to the BJP, it is about the fear that people have started having, even people who are BJP supporters, of saying where are we taking this country and what is this land? Where is it going to end up? There is a sense that a lot of what Modi says is just random stuff. It's just not just they're not incorrect, but they're like randomly incorrect stuff. The fact that there is a virulent campaign that is aimed at, and then you are seeing this in all kind of that. There is a constant invocation of Hindu-Muslim. I think there are little bits and pieces where I think there is some shake-up that is beginning to happen. I think I would try and narrativize that. I would try to sort of collapse that into something more graspable, which I think someone like Dhruv Rathi is doing. I think the reason why it works is that there is a certain, you can read him together and it makes sense. There is a certain, it all comes together in some form. And I think that's what I would look for, whether through advertising or through other means. What I find lacking for one, of course, is they don't have a counterpoint of view. What will they offer in place? And apart from saying 1 lakh rupiya some scheme, there is actually nothing by way of their counter promise, which is fine. Which is a lot of times, when oppositions go up against an entrenched kind of it is enough for them to merely attack the ruling party, and that you don't necessarily have to have a very coherent plan. But I don't think the counter narrative is well formed. So I would just try and find ways of doing that. One simple way would be to sort of learn from things that work, and I think again, so Dhruv Rathi is a great example of things that work, and I don't think the opposition is adequately tuning into that.
Also, I think this Arvind Kejriwal throwing this whole new thing that Modi is going to destroy all the leaders within his party is just an interesting little new.
It's an interesting, exactly.
It's a completely different. It's a googly counter narrative which no one had tried before, and this is why he comes up with these clever things.
अगर ये चुनाव जीत गए, मेरे से लिखवा लो 2 महीने के अंदर उत्तर प्रदेश का मुख्यमंत्री बदल देंगे। योगी आदित्यनाथ की राजनीति खत्म करेंगे, उनको भी निपटा देंगे।
No, I think that's very true. This idea of 75 years that you have to retire. They've made the big deal out of that. So to sort of throw that back in their face is a smart way. It's a
अब मोदी जी अगले साल 17 सितंबर को रिटायर होने वाले हैं। तो मैं बीजेपी से पूछना चाहता हूं, आपका प्रधानमंत्री का दावेदार कौन है? तो मैं लोगों को, देश के लोगों को आगाह करना चाहता हूं, मोदी जी अपने लिए वोट नहीं मांग रहे। मोदी जी अमित शाह को प्रधानमंत्री बनाने के लिए वोट मांग रहे हैं।
So, Manisha, you have a favorite and least favorite?
So, no, I mean, none of them are my favorite. Nothing really hits home. But I think if the main aim is to convince people who are a little unsure, then I think I agree with Santosh that the BJP ad with the Dula Kaun hai, because it's addressing an audience which is doubtful about Modi, because it starts off with like, do you want these other suitors? And then the narrative goes on to say that this is going to be a disaster for you. So I think that kind of really, and it taps into a conversation that we are hearing about Modi versus who, whether you like it or not. So it taps into that sense of, okay, there's this Modi and then there's this alliance and we don't know who's going to be leading that. So I think that's effective because that ad is convincing someone who wants to go to the other side. So it's making an effort to tell that person that, look, no, this is a bad choice for you to make. Go with this one face, one man, whatever. The Congress ads, I was wondering, like, in terms of narrative, like I saw the Smriti Irani thing ad that everyone was very excited about because it has a person mimicking. I didn't find it effective at all. Because I think...
Tulsi bhi आई है.
Because एक तो इतना takes long, वो भूमिका बहुत बांध रहा है ad. मतलब तो end में जाके पता चलता है what is it offering, you know, that 1 lakh in your account is just really, there's a whole story around it which just, you lose me. So, and I think with Congress ads also, there's a certain... I don't know how to explain it, but BJP ads, while they're toxic, there's something visceral about them. I don't know, there's... Even those odious Hindu-Muslim ads, I can imagine people, you know, watching it and feeling really like, yeah, this is right.
I think you should change the people you hang out with.
No. Not people I know, but I can imagine people, you know, this whole thing that Muslims will grow and Rahul is feeding him. It's toxic, but I think like it...
No, I think that is so vile, it will only appeal to the base. I don't see that appealing to anyone who even if you have an iota of decency in you.
It shouldn't, but I think it kind of...
No, but like a small touch of in that ad where they show the Tamil suitor eating idli with the chopstick. Like I know that really took off and all online because it was a very small sort of
sometimes
thing,
like these base things and
But
Congress's ad is quite polished. Like even when rural, like this woman, the Lakshmi ad, it's a woman from a village, but it's just never believable that she's...
English medium वालों ने ad बनाया basically.
So it doesn't kind of...
I think also most of these ads are just the combination of Twitter jokes. If you look at them, like for example, this was very like in terms of messaging, it was very smart that chopsticks se idli khane wala. But that was a Twitter joke, like what was happening. Even the BJP ka jo Tamil Nadu, that team, they also put it like 3-4 months back.
I mean, the Empire ad I liked because I thought that was very
the cricket one.
Because that was very like it just hits you and you know what it is.
You know what it is.
So you don't have to wait
fixed
to
match,
like
basically.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I just think that if I were the opposition, I would just get a really smart creative team and rather than come up with ads, react to every ad. Like, so the moment they come up with an ad about ye dulha hai, come with an ad, dulhe ne to apni dulhan ko hi chhod diya tha. You know, some shit like that. You know, throw that whole thing. They'd keep reacting to ads because they are setting, like war rukwa di. I think if you don't have a coherent plan like that, because I remember, I may not remember the exact brands, maybe Santosh should remember, there were a lot of ads. There was this Coke and Pepsi one, which was it where they had to stop running the ad because the spoof was so effective that the original ad...
Monkey.
Which one was that?
Monkey, Thumbs Up and Pepsi perhaps.
Yeah, because the one with Salman, they had like a Salman...
No, I am talking much earlier, mid-90s there was Pepsi, Thumbs Up, Monkey controversial ad.
I remember there was one about
there was
Thumbs
Salman,
Up. There was a topless and then they had this really... you know, spoofy Salman Khan topless and about a drink, and they had to stop running the original one because the spoof became
the kind of the default ad.
That became the default ad. So I think that would be a better this thing. But you know, before we go back to them, Anand, you haven't told us which is your favorite and least favorite, and why aren't Bihar parties on the ad list? They don't believe in ads. They only believe in music videos.
No, see, like someone was pointing out that a music video was played, perhaps Jayalalitha story,
right?
Where an helicopter come. in villages, the helicopter would be the attraction, not Jayalalitha. So people throng to rallies to see helicopters, and leaders have this illusion that
they've come to see them.
Yes, I have. So the helicopter is a big attraction. Anyway, just one change from earlier elections of say last 20 years is that the outsourcing has now two professional levels. Now, when you outsourced ads to agencies, that was the one professional group handling it. Now there is another layer of poll strategists giving them the lines, like IPAC or some other strategists that they hire. So professionalization has now these two layers, and they filtered it through them. How much now this is a collaborative creative effort, that is also seen. So that has also to be examined, because that's one difference that you can see in last 20 years or so. Second is that just like other Indian ads, the more than abstract imagery or symbols, Indian psyche is more tuned to stories, telling a story through an ad, and not abstract symbolism like this chair that you were finding difficult to decode what was it about. So storytelling through a 30-second or 45-second ad is the more preferred way to the Indian psyche. So most of the ads do that. That is. Third is that one thing that someone was pointing out, that the tangible, like say unemployment or the material parts of government, like unemployment, some mismanagement,
ration delivery, gas, bijli, pani, whatever.
Yes. So there is also this arrogance in certain political circles that the tangibles have to be seen as the only part of governance, and the average voter is not concerned about non-tangibles. That is for the higher ups to decide what should be the foreign policy or what should be. So for large section of electorate, that does not work that way. They think that we have a say in foreign policy. The non-tangible part, the identity part, that also works. So I think some of these ads, the opposition ads, they miss this mix of tangibles and non-tangibles.
But I went to watch a film last night. It was preceded by a music video. It wasn't an ad, it was a long music video, Modi ji. I haven't seen it online, I haven't seen it on TV, but clearly it's playing in all the cinemas because it's really long. I think maybe 2.5, 3 minutes. And it is the Sanjay Leela Bhansali, Karan Johar version of that Mile Sur Mera Tumhara, it went in it. Mile Sur Jo Thado, Mado, Bane, Apana, Sur Nado, Manja, Didara. In every language. So in every language, in every setting, in every costume, people dancing and saying how great Modi is, Modi. It was about... And I haven't seen this.
I haven't seen this one.
It is, I mean, the production scale of that could run Newslaundry for a decade. So, but since we won't get that, I don't know. You can subscribe to us and make sure we run for a decade, because we've finished 12 years now. But those of you who haven't, we have a subscription plan where you get 1 + 1 free by a joint subscription, News Minute and Newslaundry. And you can gift 1 free subscription to a friend who you think should know about independent news. So please support us. We don't take any ads. Speaking of ads. So yeah, sorry, you were asking something?
No, I was just asking that the original Mile Sur was done by Piyush Pande.
Was it? I don't recall. Maybe Santosh should know, but Santosh...
Yeah, it is Ogilvy, yeah.
It was.
Actually, Suresh Malik is actually the guy who did it, but anyway, that's a... But along with Piyush, yes.
So, I know you have another engagement at 4, so we have you 10 minutes, Santosh. So, just sum this up for us as narrative setting. Okay, it doesn't work. But yet, the market needs ads. They are produced at an alarming rate. And if one is to assume that such huge sums of money and effort are being put, what is the thinking that people are putting? Because even political parties are full of people like you and me, you being Amit Shah, me being, I don't know, Manisha Pande. but
Okay. I mean, if you want it that way, sure.
No, I'm talking about the scale, the auqat difference. You're the Amit Shah.
I just let it pass. I will just let this pass. let's just get.
You're the big daddy of advertising.
Thank you for the compliment. I'm sure you mean it as a compliment.
I did. But so just sum that up. Why is it still? Why do people still take that call? And before you go, I know that's not a political commentary, and Hafta is usually political commentary. But since we have you, also tell me why you think advertising agencies aren't what they used to be back then. Is it digital? And one more thing I want to say that that ek titli anek titli. When you had nothing to watch, that one thing just so it impacted you. Today you have 20,000 things, so I don't think it impacts you. For example, that national integration, ban gai tagat, ho gai mehnat, it sticks with you. Nothing sticks today because you have seen so many things. So I think in that sense also effectiveness may have gone down, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think, just to, complete that thought, I think that's absolutely true that given the overload of information right now you have, I think advertising is kind of moved on from the old days of easy to remember things and has gone on to, narrative storytelling. And while that is its strength, I think sometimes you lose out on simple things like mnemonics and that help you retain and remember. I think it kind of has become unfashionable. But I'll just, in terms of summing it up, I think the reason why people advertise is because they want to throw everything, they don't want to leave anything out. Willy-nilly, I think the way the advertising works, when it works, I think it is in energizing your own base, in restating the obvious. And I think in its best form, I would like to say is that it can crystallize your message. So, a tagline which is done well, for instance, Achhe Din Aayenge, crystallizes a message. And I think it gives it a point. It is a sharp end of everything that you're saying. It allows people to grasp it and to hang on to it. And I think that is the power, I think, of advertising. I think that when it works well, I think what advertising is not currently, and this is true across all parties, is not, in fact, Anand made this point about there being a layer of strategists, but I don't see that their input in the advertising. I don't see any strategic bent to the advertising. I don't see any compelling reason that is being offered or even being attempted to be offered in terms of saying, why should a floating voter? And so it's not persuasive. It is affirmative, but not persuasive. It is validating, but it is not, it doesn't change minds. I think that is, and I think that is a failure of intention. That's a failure of strategy. That's a failure of actually, and so you say a whole lot of things. And like I think Jayashree said, something will stick against the wall. And that's the best that you're doing right now. I think that is the state of advertising today. I think it could be much, much more strategic than what it is today.
And why aren't ad agencies the force to reckon with that they used to be these big, everyone wanted to be at the ad agency. It was the place to work.
There's a bunch of reasons. One, I think, is from the supply side reason is that when agencies became international and led internationally, they lost their soul. They became, profit. The agencies were being run out of, headquarters in different countries which had no sense of the Indian reality, no interest in advertising. Actually, they were largely bottom line focused. So there's, you had otherwise individual mavericks running agencies, all of them with a point of view, all of them, having a sort of a attitude of a kind of saying fuck you to the world in many ways. I think that whole creative spirit, I think, was one. There was a loss that happened. The other was, I think, and a big part of it is, of course, the shift to digital, which has made the traditional agency, and the agency is still very much structured around the television ad and the print ad. And however much they have tried to change, and instinctively they find it very difficult to handle. And think about it today, they were supposed to be the sort of sources of creativity in business. Today, the source of creativity is 100% creators on YouTube, creators on Instagram, creators on social media. All new interesting ideas are coming from there. If you look at the last 5 years, you'd be hard put to name one ad that stands out and makes us, and if you go back 15 years, there are hundreds of ads that you can think of that did that. Advertising today is not leading culture. It is following culture. It is not shaping popular culture. And I think there is both an internal loss of a sense of who you are, as well as an external irrelevance that has happened. Because I think creation is no longer the sort of the preserve of intermediaries. Creation is now the preserve of anybody with a mobile phone. And I think that is a huge, and agencies just have not managed to keep pace. So I think that's the reason why you find advertising having lost so much of the glitter that it once had.
Right. So Santosh, before we let you go, will you have a recommendation that could enrich the lives of our listeners and viewers?
Yeah. So there's this interesting book called The Anxious Generation by this social psychologist and journalist called Jonathan Haidt, Haidt. And the book has come out in hardcover. On, I think next week or so, it is coming out in even a paperback. I think it's a great book that looks at the impact of digital, sort of the digital impact on our, on how generations are being formed. And he makes an interesting argument that actually, for instance, mental health across the world, in many parts of the world, took a dive after 2012. And he says, what happened in 2012?
Yeah.
And it really was the smartphone that became democratized.
Twitter.
So there's an interesting,
Insta.
So the book is interesting. There's a podcast, the whole bunch of podcasts that are worth checking out with him. Jonathan Haidt, Anxious Generation. I would recommend that.
Interesting you say this. There's an article in The Economist, I think a couple of weeks ago, which they've published an article based on research where I may get the numbers wrong by a bit, but it's in the ballpark. Girl depression, anxiety, and even self-harm and attempts at suicide went up fourfold. And that drop-off point or that pickup point was Insta among teenage girls.
So exactly,
they've
I
done
think
that
so there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. He's making a strong case, in fact, for schools to ban mobile phones in class. He's making a strong case for that. I mean, people may agree or disagree, but I think it's an interesting, provocative, and I think a very relevant and pertinent, timely kind of a conversation to have. So I think it's worth taking a look at.
And lastly, before you go, I want to make this point earlier. Not even media. I think Manisha has often said that news overestimates its power to form narratives. I used to have that same view, but I've seen how news has spread hatred effectively. So I'm not sure whether it has that. But it's so hard to say. I remember, I know Santosh, you would remember that, because we're probably around the same age. But you remember when Mayawati became Chief Minister 2007, when she swept and she did not give a single interview. None of her spokespersons would go on any panel. And during the run-up to that election, this was May 2007, when they would say who's going to be, she was not even in the running. Because and suddenly when she swept, everyone, and I remember that press conference, she wore that pink suit and she came and they were all like fawning over her, all the media before that. And she came and said, the media ko tumhe interview dena, and if they are not going to make me or not. She demonstrated that media doesn't matter. And sometimes you feel it matters. So, nothing succeeds like success. I mean, I remember she did not have even one spokesperson that went to any panel. And she swept. So, you never know what works or what doesn't. Today, I can't imagine any party doing that, No,
that's true. That's true. Because today, you have so much that is happening. But I think there has been a shift. I think, the democratization of mobile phones has made a difference. See, till then, till you didn't have media that reached into electoral India, right? What she was saying was true, essentially true. And that's why so many times, which is why you can even do a tour of, a state. You can do an exhaustive tour of a state. By its very nature, there's no way to tell what is happening in an election. It's just too large. And any individual vantage point is too small. It's fundamentally not possible. So, which is the reason why when experts talk about, what they have seen and what they have understood, and there is a sentiment building, personally, I always dismiss it. It is all retrospective. Only when you get the results,
then you can explain
your
it.
Theories, and then you change theories. Like famously that happened.
Pranay and Sekhri.
Pranay and Sekhri. Famously, instantly your theory changed. You gave a very glib and a very erudite answer as to why.
And the result changed and your theory changed. Yeah. But thanks so much, Santosh. Always a pleasure to talk to you. So much to learn from you, man.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh. Thank you.
Bye.
Before we, switch to any other subject, Anurag, any closing thoughts on the ad part of it? What still explains, you have made some of the funniest and really effective videos. Let's not call them viral videos, because virality is a function of chance, but you made a video
It's
where
a glitch in the universe.
Huh?
Glitch in the universe.
Is a glitch in the universe.
And exactly. So, your Starbucks one is something I forever remember. Your many ones about Yogender, because you just mimic him so well. Have you ever been approached by a brand or an agency to say, boss, do something and plug our product in there or something? Because, your audience is an engaged audience, right? They're not just viewing an ad and moving on. Have you got that offer? And if you did, how did you react? Can you make something that you think will make a brand it worth their while?
So basically, brand approaches you if your recent videos get viral. Like, for example, Instagram is the biggest recruiter in that sense. So many of my videos went into millions, and then I got many offers from many different kind of brands to do. I don't know if I can name them, but there were many brands. And they wanted to make something around the same video diary style that I do, but I chose purposefully to not integrate them into that thing, because then the whole purpose, whole fun would be lost. So I didn't do anything. And then there is also a different kind of brands. These betting apps who pay you the most. Like these are the brands which can make you rich, but obviously because of the ethical reason, I couldn't do it. The third also is being approached by political parties to do tweets or to make videos. So
really?
That also.
हमारे पास कोई नहीं आता यार.
So this is also a type of marketing. So I also wanted to point it out. Like people now also, this is also a type of marketing and way of influencing, through which it seems like you're doing the genuine tweets, genuine videos, but behind it there is a very hidden, paid marketing agency, which I think is the most effective way of reaching across your message.
If you were to say yes to a brand, tell me what product would you say yes to?
I would say yes to maybe a food brand, let's say Zomato or something like that, because I can integrate something in that very well. Obviously not to
Patanjali Chavanprash.
If I can name like Patanjali or even Urban Clap or even Unacademy and these kind of brands, because they don't integrate into that. And also one point I wanted to make about, like you said, about that era when there was the spoofs were going on. So I remember that at that time, Thumbs Up launched a campaign, and that was against Pepsi, because Pepsi is more sugary than the Thumbs Up. And their campaign was "Kab tak ye meaty drink piya bade ho ja bacche." That was into my psyche so much, not just me, but the entire school. जब भी कोई Pepsi पीता था, used to say बड़े हो जा बच्चे, and we used to proudly hold that Thumbs Up. And till now I only drink Thumbs Up. In my mind, psychologically, I'm trapped by that thought. So that is one thing. But like, just to why I said this thing is because when I went to, like, when I travel, and especially once I went to Shillong, and I was just there were some boys from nearby my hotel, and those boys during that trek, that 5-6 kilometer trek, they were just repeating meme lines. For example, अरे बड़े heavy driver हो तुम तो, या फिर गजब बेचती है यार. So their mind was trapped by
memes,
these meme lines. So like Santosh said, that advertisement doesn't have that kind of impact that it becomes every day, but the memes do have. So similarly, for example, if you remember demonetization, then the one video will always come to your mind, which is that reporter के पास वो जाता है, and he said, कि क्या लगता है आपको? I can't repeat that.
Yeah, बहन की पता नहीं.
The hallmark of monetization.
That was true. And how the reporter suddenly changed direction. Yeah, that was quite fun.
हाँ, चलिए इनसे तो बाद में बात करते हैं.
Right. Yeah. So now we shall move on to political discussions of what's happened on the ground. We have lots of pundits here, including a genuine pundit. क्या कहते हैं, पांडे जी पिए विस्की. What was that song from Chulbul Pandey ji something
like CT, I think.
CT, अच्छा whiskey पता नहीं कैसे आगे फिर. But before that, I just want to remind all our listeners and viewers that if you've recently discovered Hafta, It's an English weekly news show. We discuss what happened over the week. The next few haftas are free. After that, we'll put it behind the paywall. It's only because of elections we've kept outside the paywall.
And they're doing pretty well. The moment we put them out for free, we have a lot of people tuning in.
So we can keep it free indefinitely. But I'll tell you honestly, while many of you and a large chunk of your Newslaundry subscribers pay not to breach the paywall, you pay because you believe news should be paid for by the listener. But we have the data that when we pull something behind the paywall, suddenly a lot of people will then start paying to access it. I mean, we'd like to keep it free all the time, but we have to survive. In fact, now we've had about 25 of our colleagues who've been traveling right now, even as we speak. You've just come back yesterday. 2 more teams have left today. Vasu is traveling to, I think,
he was in Bombay.
Srinivas Sanjay, and I hope you're watching that as well. And then we had Karma Paljo did some stuff for you.
Yeah, we have Pratyush in West Bengal. We have Basant in Haryana and Punjab. So yeah.
कौन दे रहा है इन सबके पैसे यार? I thought you had come back and he was here yesterday. He left again today. Tell him to park the ass here. Yeah, यहाँ का बिजली का bill दे रहे हैं. Might as well relax here for a bit. But please contribute. Click on the link below. Pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. That's our line. Pay to keep news free. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Okay, now to the political happenings. I wanted to discuss Arvind's release. How much has it changed? Suddenly there was a lot of buzz that, oh, this is back. Was it just an event on TV? But before that, you've just come from UP.
Yes, from Rae Bareli, Amethi and Lucknow principally.
So tell me something that I can throw around when people say, ki, what do you know? You are sitting in AC studios talking shit.
But
I don't have to go when my colleagues are doing all the hard work in the heat.
No, but Santosh was absolutely right. You know, like journalists trying to ascertain which way, what, how, and all that, because see, 100 crore people voting this election, and I would have spoken to 100 people. So there's no way to really give you a very conclusive understanding. But I think if you listen hard enough and you work hard enough on the ground and you try and meet people away from the city centers where usually journalists go, jo chai ki dukane hoti hain, ya square hoga where, you know, you get to talk to people. If you venture in, you can pick up on some things. And broadly, there are like 3 to 4 things that I thought were pretty striking for this election. One is, again, we've said this before, but unemployment is really, really a big concern. When you go from village to village, it is just something that people talk about on their own. And we've discussed this before in Hafta, that it's a perennial problem. It's not like we've ever had a time of surplus employment. So this is something that has happened and will continue to happen. But I think there's a difference where a lot of families from the most humblest of backgrounds invest a lot in education today. So you'll have families who, you know, save, take loans to give their child that gap year to prepare for an exam. And there's a lot of investment of money. And when a paper leak happens, I think it really rankles. And I think a lot of people are just very angry about the paper leaks and the fact that they're investing a lot of money into their child's education, but it's not yielding anything. And that group of people, I mean, some of them are very interested in what Akhilesh is saying or what Tejasvi is even saying. Some of them would talk about Rahul because they feel that these guys bringing up this unemployment as an issue is very important. And a lot would also then say Modi should focus on this on their third term. So the angry voter is not necessarily
angry at Modi. He's just angry in life.
It doesn't necessarily mean that they may be, against Modi.
That says so much about his personal charm, because as an issue, it really pisses everybody off. But they still don't want to blame him.
Even like the most staunchest of BJP supporters, they have someone in their house, a son, who's preparing for an exam and who's lost a year. So it is personal now. It really does. So even they, so some conversations would go like now, our sons are telling us कि तुमने वोट दिया, तुमको क्या मिला? हम तो किसी और को वोट करेंगे इस बार. So those conversations are happening. But yeah, how much will the opposition be able to galvanize this anger or this anxiety around unemployment is something we'll know. Price rise again is key. We saw a lot of enthusiasm around Modi government's food grain program during Corona when we went for the assembly elections in UP, where they had managed to contain all the anger or anxiety around Corona with their food grain program. Because people would come and say that hum bhooke to nahi mare. You see that changing a little bit now. But the poorest, and I think this is the most loyal base for Modi, the poorest segment, the red card holders who get 35 kg grains, rice and wheat for 2 to 3 rupees a kg, are still very much, indebted to Modi. I mean, this food grain thing, I think there are two schemes actually that are really helping Modi overcome anti-incumbency on unemployment and price rise. One is the PM Kisan Nidhi Samman Yojana, which we've also done a piece on, which is 500 rupees in your bank account every month. There are about 8 crore beneficiaries, which is what the government data says, and 1 in every 4 is a woman. So 400 rupees, 500 rupees seems like less to us, but it's actually quite a bit in rural
absolutely.
parts.
I remember even that this 1 lakh rupee scheme that Congress has announced. It is getting people excited. I mean, I know people.
And I think Congress is now responding because they understand the food grain thing has really created a loyal voter base for Modi. So they are saying, "Hum 10 lakh kar denge," and they are saying, "Hum bank account mein dalenge." But I think the Kisan Nidhi directly having access to 500 rupees in your account, which you can use for medical emergency, or with which you can buy your vegetables for the month, that has created a lot of kind of goodwill around the government that हमको ये आ रहा है सीधा आ रहा है, and we don't, ठीक है unemployment है, ठीक है other issues हैं, but we're getting this very directly. I think where the opposition missed a trick or two is that when people talk about these schemes and then benefiting from it, they literally talk like Modi अपनी pocket money से हमको दे रहा है, you know.
Yeah,
गुल्लक
he's
तोड़ के
managed
दे
to
रहा
pull
है.
that.
Because the marketing is just, like we were talking about advertising, it's nothing compared to the sheer marketing they've done around food.
Exactly. This is where that communication works. Like even when he speaks, मैंने ये लाके दिया, and there was one Congress spokesperson who said that Congress spokesperson says क्या अपने मामा के घर से लाके दिया है.
Priyanka is trying to counter that. She says कि she says आप सबको मिल रहा है, मुझे पता है मिल रहा है, पर आपको पता है हमने शुरू करा था. She's trying to do that, but I think there is you have to give it to the government that we've all grown up listening to this middleman who would take everything away, pilferage. There are very few complaints of that. So I think there's a trust in the Modi government to deliver these. And so this builds the trust on, okay, if this is the problem, he'll fix it. So this seems to be, quite a sentiment that you see in villages, at least very poor people, where no one reaches there. No Dhruv Rathi, no Anjana Om Kashyap, no ads. It's really just a direct relationship with your government that is feeding you.
I can't, I just don't understand this. And, Anand, you come here, it's so sad when you think about the numbers, $500. And that is less than what you spend in one PVR outing, man. And that can influence your...
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about this country, the overall conversations that even, places like Newslaundry or Hafta, anyone is having, it's a fucking different world, man. It is like, who are we even talking about? Yeah, I just wonder at the extreme inequality, which is why I think it's a miracle. When people say revolution, मैंने कहा boss, caste system में revolution नहीं ला सका, कुछ नहीं लाएगा. There is no chance that if there's going to be any change, it's going to be, धीरे-धीरे, क्या कहते हैं उसको? Incremental change.
So,
but
two more things I just want to add quickly because you mentioned caste census. One thing I think which was very interesting for me to at least observe, and this is something that I think television media is guilty of it, but even liberal media is, where because the BJP has this electoral hegemony in UP, we tend to assume that there's a dominance of narrative, which isn't true. Forget who they're going to vote for. There is a lot of conversations in villages about this 400 par nara. Kyun kar rahe hain? What do they mean by it? There's a lot of conversation on the need for a strong opposition. A lot of people, when you bring up this 400 par, they say ki nahi, we want a strong opposition. We want a strong leader to go there. Ram Mandir, ironically, I think is the least. I mean, having made the temple, it has, I think this is the first election where it really seems to not be benefiting BJP much because people aren't really, it's like, it's over. Okay, now that's done, that's good. We all love Ram, Astha ka vishay, good. But now education, employment. So there's the BJP doesn't have a dominance in terms of narrative. I think it's very important to highlight that people are talking about a lot of other things, including the need for a strong opposition. The number of people who'd ask about Kejriwal, just if you tell them that you've come from Delhi, they'll say that, अच्छा Kejriwal का क्या हाल है? अच्छा वो हमको लगता है ठीक बोलते हैं जो बोलते हैं. They'll throw in, they'll try and ask कि क्या करा है नहीं करा है. Yeah, so there is this, it's a very vibrant kind of a discussion, I think. And we should not kind of tend to assume that एक ही party हावी होगी सबके ऊपर, even if they're voting for that one party. And caste census, I feel like, I mean, we went to villages where dominated by Parsi Dalit community. If though they are telling us कि ये हमारे समझ से परे है, it means that there hasn't been enough groundwork to really explain to people what does a caste census really mean. So,
and what impact it has on
Dalit
governance.
Boys, of course, talk about it.
But you're talking about the rural areas.
But vast number of people look at it as they literally say समझ से बाहर है. ये तो it's like a bureaucratic exercise which will tell us who's what, but people can't seem to understand
How does it
what
impact my
mean.
life?
So I think that hasn't really worked.
What do you think about the developments of the last week? Of course, you haven't traveled back to Bihar, but do you think this release of Kejriwal and his googly about Yogi and Modi has opened a new point of conversation politically? Or was it just a television event? Everyone got excited and went back home.
Said what everyone's been saying though.
Yeah, everyone's been saying
Everyone's been talking about it. He just put it out there.
Yeah, means this is for those who think that who are voting for Mr. Modi's face, and they hope that for the tenure he will be there, and he is saying that he may not be for the whole tenure. He may relinquish the post for Mr. Shah. So it may be applied to confuse those voters. It may not be applied to create a new ground, but to confuse the solid ground that BJP has by projecting Mr. Modi. So that is what was your other question? Yes, okay. So I think discussions there was a reporter from the Hindu that we did a broadcast here, and she said that she found, despite all economic backwardness, she found the people in Bihar and UP to be most politically aware and about a lot of issues there. The point is that if you talk about 100 things, but you vote for only one thing, you have only one vote. You have made up your mind. When you vote, you don't analyze that, okay, unemployment mein ye acha hai.
Cost benefit analysis nahi hota.
And you may say a lot of things because you are a talkative person. And sometimes researchers and journalists miss it, that simply he's a talkative person, he's a politically aware person, he can bring many strands to discussion, but he may be a very politically decisive person. He may have made up his mind whom to vote for. The second point is that yes, like one of Mr. Modi's escape from all his drawbacks is that in his converted voters, for all the flaws of his policies and governance, the answer is a better version of Mr. Modi himself, not any other leader. So for the converted voters, not the so even if they may have a lot of complaints, so yes, in the next term he should focus on that. He should do this better. So the answer to anti-Modism is Modism. So for them,
yeah, I think he's managed to create that persona in a very impactful way.
And the third is that about this paper, some people, means some of them well-known people contacted me for giving database of many students who suffered this paper leak problem, and I gave them a lot of numbers. I gave
How much did you charge?
I didn't.
Wait, I
had for giving numbers of students.
Numbers to talk for a story.
Yes. So
you should have said, okay, sell it, buy a subscription of Newslaundry. I
have my moments of generosity. So
tap into it when it's available.
So what is that many people who do stories around this, and that is for very well-known writers and journalists also, they are not exposed to other world. Say, suppose they have not come through the competitive exam world. They have entered the profession in early 20s after passing out from college, and they can be easily manipulated about this thing. Now the paper leak thing, it has happened in most of the states, if not all.
Yeah.
And it is not a party-centric problem. But the failure of the center has been to bring a very strict law and enforce it. It is difficult to enforce because of the technological things. But this feeling that people laugh at things that you didn't get a job because there was a paper leak, but you are not passing this prelims exam, you are this mains exam, you are not working hard enough. Suppose I never blamed any government for being a failure in competitive exam, but of course there can be resentment, there can be say a kind of unrest among students that we are not getting job because some government has not enough jobs. But there is also a stream of students who think that maybe I am not good enough, maybe I am not cracking exams because 1,000 people are getting into it, I am not getting into it.
I also think that is the successful of narrative building, is like Trump has convinced them that, it's because of immigrants coming, whereas data shows that immigrants don't take high-paying jobs. The jobs they take, no one's taking. A white man will not take that job. Here, the narrative that Musalmanon mein baant diya jayega. Like Modi ji said, "Nahin, मैं तो कभी हिंदू मुसलमान करूंगा, सार्वजनिक जीवन में लाल ले आया कि नहीं हूँ." Next day is doing Hindu Musliman. I mean, it's just bizarre, dude. So
now anything's going.
This
election has become a bit strange.
In Aligarh, his controversial speech, and next day he was speaking in Aligarh, and he was talking about Hajj quota and how other parties have only done appeasement and I am doing welfare programs for minorities.
It's bizarre.
But I think one question should be, and I think they'll have to really work on this if they come back to power, is this Ministry of Skill Development. Like skilling is, because the government can't provide these jobs, but what about skilling?
But for that you have to have a robust private sector for which you have to relinquish control. You have to have a more federal structure, which Mr. Modi just doesn't like a federal. He has to have control over everything. But Anurag, what do you make of Arvind Kejriwal's release, and suddenly this, like Manisha said, everyone's been talking about Yogi will be sidelined soon. He just said it out. Same thing about Vadra. Everyone knew what Vadra DLF deal was. He's the first one who came and said, this is happening. He just, like, you're thinking it, he just says it out. Like, he says it out loud. And I think that's his political genius. So, just that, and what do you make of Mr. Modi's many speeches? Even day, no Hindu Muslim, odd day, Hindu Muslim.
I was watching his interview with Rubika Liaquat last day. So, she says one very funny thing. मोदी जी, आपकी एक खास बात है, आप शकीला और शकुंतला में भेद नहीं करते.
क्या?
आप शकीला और शकुंतला में भेद नहीं करते.
Seriously, ये पूछा?
ये तो मैं भी जानती हूँ. आप सबको समान से देखते हैं. तो बोलते हैं कि मेरा नेचर है जी. These interviews are funny.
Guys, they're too funny.
Kejriwal thing also. Like you mentioned that he वो googly मार दिया कि 75 की age पे he will retire and Amit Shah will become prime minister. So last day I was watching an interview of Amit Shah with that Aaj Tak anchor Anjana. So she asked him this question, and I can see he was very, uncomfortable answering it. And he said, no. मोदी जी ही बनेंगे, अभी मोदी जी हैं, अगले जब तक हैं वही बनेंगे. बट ही वाज लिटिल, मतलब मन में लड्डू फूट.
और पूरे इंडिया अलायंस को कहना चाहता हूं, मोदी जी 75 साल के हो जाए, इससे आपको आनंदित होने की जरूरत नहीं है. ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी के संविधान में कहीं नहीं लिखा है. मोदी जी ही ये टर्म पूरी करेंगे और मोदी जी ही आगे देश का नेतृत्व करते रहेंगे. इसमें भारतीय जनता पार्टी में कोई कंफ्यूजन नहीं है.
Yogi hasn't come all guns flying. Yogi has not come and made statement after statement. Like his famous son in India. क्या चूतिया पकड़ रहे हो?
And this time Yogi is not the star pracharak as he was last time. Like
exactly.
He's not there. Like last time he was even in the small towns of Rajasthan doing.
He was everywhere.
Missing.
Yeah. You're right. Dude, he would be in Kerala.
Yeah.
They would send him to South, in Bangalore, in Karnataka, Yogi Adityanath.
But one interesting thing, like how Kejriwal tried to change the pitch, and even the Congress has this time tried to change the pitch of this Hindutva and everything, and they started the whole social justice thing, which was basically the idea of Manevar Kanchiram. Like mostly it's like that, Sankhya Bhari and all this caste and sari cheezein. So this is also an interesting experiment. Now BJP, rather than they responding to BJP has to respond to them. So most of the Modi's and Amit Shah's speech, and even they have hired people who are on the social media, all they are doing that how Musliman kis tarah se SC, ST, OBC ke liye khatarnak and everything. So they also have to, play it on that social justice pitch. So that been a very interesting change.
Yeah, I think for the first time they managed to make them reactive rather than being reactive all the time. Jayashree, you have any comments before we close
I
this?
have a bunch of muddled thoughts, which is one on Kejriwal's release. I think the entire thing was very strange to me, but also it's a very strange thing about India, which is that we're so inured to all these things that take place that his arrest was barely a blip. You know, like politicians will sort of tweet predictable things, courts will say very predictable things, opposition leaders will talk about authoritarianism, BJP will talk about corruption, and then it's sort of like in the news cycle for a couple of days and then we kind of move on. It's like the Congress's accounts, they said they were frozen. We sort of saw it for 2 days and then we've become very dispassionate about it. I mean, like, it barely registers as an event that happens. On Modi's sort of language and speeches, especially that recent one where he said, the day I do what? The day I do Hindu Muslim,
I will be unworthy of being in public life.
Yeah, and so both the Times of India and the Indian Express, I think, had it on page 1, but in a very unqualified way. In that they just narrated what he said in an interview without that sort of context or background or fact checking or like even, you know, we're not asking for much as readers. I'm saying you're just allowing a prime minister sort of misrepresent himself and misrepresent facts. If he's effectively claiming that people with more children, he was referring to the poor, then he's also effectively saying that he was upset that the Congress said they want to redistribute wealth to the poor. And this is just a very basic, lazy sort of thing, but it was still sort of reproduced. And then in a couple of days, you'll probably have a very mendacious editorial, you know, taking this moral line, the prime minister is blurring this. And also, what is the point? I just think if a journalist doesn't sort of test a politician's statement against facts, then why do they exist? Which brings me to another point, which is, of course, very pessimistic take. But, you know, Manisha talking about unemployment. And I think every single election we use the word unemployment in headlines so many times because this is the one thing that people talk about. And we talk about the sort of entrenched poverty. And this is why India is a failed experiment, because it is sort of like story of deep contradictions with, you know, this growing middle class, but most of the population is vulnerable, living in poverty, living hand to mouth. The most basic public goods are not provided to them. The most basic public good is a struggle to survive. So, and yet every single year it just sort of gets worse and worse. Our sort of human development indicators are down in the bottom with, you know, comparable sub-Saharan Africa, all those things. So we've sort of developed a rhetoric over it, but these are issues that we are just simply not interested in solving. So
yeah, I just think it's I think the expectation of the average Indian from their lives is really pathetic. I mean, just not being dead is an achievement. I mean, you just see the wretchedness of so many lives and them not being completely, you know, aghast at their lot is something that is, I think it is a sociological study that can be done at a meta level. But before we got on the emails, we must thank Anurag. Any closing remarks you have, Anurag, before you give us your valuable suggestion for the week?
Like Manisha said, that it's very difficult to make out of the public opinion by talking to them. So that's what I was saying, that I realized that most of the people are very scared to speak up their mind, especially about the government, about the Modi. So they are not exactly telling the truth while they are in the community, because they are also performing along with them. So I've seen it by myself also, like there are many people who are, since there are many Modi supporters, let's say in a shared cab or shared bus, then they also perform like, it's so good, bahut acha kar rahe hain, dekho highway kitna acha ho gaya. But maybe their opinions are very different. So this has been one of my kind of a learning thing in the recent time, that I can't really make my opinion by talking to people, because even their opinion are also
true. It's all performative.
That was there. And about like the final recommendation, can I get?
Yes, please go ahead.
So these days I'm not reading that much of book because I'm making my own film. So I'm watching mostly the film. So I can recommend 2 films that I have watched recently, which are very, very good. The one was Fallen Leaves by one of my favorite director, Aki Kaurismäki, which is available on movie, and he's the master of deadpan cinema, and the way he brings out so many nuances of his society, Finland society, and also about the existential crisis of the character is very beautiful. So that Fallen Leaves is one of my recommendations. The second one is the Oscar-winning film this year, The Zone of Interest, which I think is one of the rare masterpiece of recent times. So these
Really?
two
I
are
must watch it.
my
I've heard a
recommendation.
lot about it.
It's excellent film. Yeah.
Right. Thanks,
So, yeah.
Anurag. Look forward to more of your
Superb.
stuff.
Thank
and
you.
next time, hopefully, we'll see you here in office.
Sure. Thank you so much
All right,
for
man. Have a
inviting
good
me.
time.
Thank you.
And that brings us to your suggestions, feedback, recommendations, critique, brickbats, bouquets. I repeat, we only entertain the feedback of subscribers. So if you're a subscriber, you can click in the link in the show notes below. It will open out this window and you can fill in your feedback. If you want to mail us at podcasts@newslaundry.com. I repeat, podcasts, that's with an S, plural, @newslaundry.com. In the subject line, please write Hafta and please keep your email to 150 words. We have one that's 550 words today.
Yes.
We will not read the whole thing, but itni bhi dhajjiya mat udao yaar, cut off ki.
So we have 21 letters. Are we reading them all?
No, let's read about 12. We'll leave the rest, but definitely read last week's.
We'll have to do a special
Letters
hafta.
Hafta.
Yeah, we'll have to do a letters hafta, but yeah, let's do like 10, 11 today.
Okay, so Dheeraj DK says, on Hafta 478, Manisha suggested that BJP is stronger than Congress and that's why they keep winning. I would like to differ on this. Now on a scale of 10, let's say TMC, which defeated BJP, is at 10. To my mind, BJP is somewhere at 4 and Congress at 6, but BJP plus media is say 8. And that's why they win. Media in South isn't as partisan and so Congress manages to give the duo a fight in South. What do you think would happen to BJP if media ripped them apart as it did to UPA? Indian people are more or like sheep. They follow the trend. They go where they think the wind is blowing. Wind might not be blowing where they're going, but if the media told them it did, they will go that way. It's not a good situation. That is our reality. How else do you suggest people silence on Revanna? On Prajwal, we should say. I was corrected last time that Revanna is his father. I mean, it's the last name. So Prajwal, but a huge protest over Nirbhaya. Either that or simply that a large part of Hindus are plain and simple bigoted to the extent that they even think rape and murders are sound means to maintain power. So, as a counterfactual, where would BJP be if the media was going after them day in and day out? That's something interesting to look at, and maybe they'd find it difficult. But I don't think we shouldn't extend that argument to say that all that's working for the BJP is the media. Like I said, like the most loyal supporters of Modi government are so divorced from media or any of the conversations that were happening here. But marketing does play a role. So Modi's face on the ration bags, the continuous messaging, which is not always the media. It's also the strength of the BJP that the pracharak would be present there in those villages, doing that outreach, meeting a beneficiary and, driving home that message that you are getting this food because of Modi. So that's also strength of the BJP, I think. So I think it's not just the media that makes them win. But sure, this is an interesting thing to actually look at. Like, how much of a difference does media really...
How would you look at it though, right? Like, I'm saying objectively, how would we analyze...
Yeah,
I think it'll be quantifiable.
And where it ends. It's so sort of entrenched that it's hard.
Because I often ask this question to people, this time especially, and every time I go, because I'm curious what they're watching. Like, what are you watching to different supporters? Like, what kind of news? And this time I asked Dhruv Rathi, Dekhte Ho Nahi. So that was only really students preparing for competitive exams and all who watch Dhruv Rathi, Read Express and BBC. A lot of people actually say, jo aata hai wo dekh lete hain, which means ki wo phone pe wo shots dekh rahe hain. So whatever the algorithms are showing them, and chances are people aren't even watching news. Happy to report this. I don't know how good or bad this is for us, but there isn't a huge consumption of news. People aren't consuming news in the way that we think they are. So it's an interesting thing, but yeah, it's worth investigating or at least exploring. Ankit says the discussion on inheritance tax was interesting and insightful. The reservation I have on the implementation of such a tax would be the manner in which this would be implemented and the use of such taxes. Tax system in India is already very convoluted, and this would become another tool for the government to get back at its detractors. Many of these initiatives do not yield the desired results, as rich people with the resources at their disposal engage in tax planning and avoid paying such taxes. Any new taxes will be welcomed if citizens have confidence in the government that both the implementation and taxes will be used effectively. Currently, the confidence is pretty low among Indian taxpayers based on the recent implementation of GST. To address wealth inequality, macroeconomic measures such as higher minimum wages, pay parity, diversity in recruitment should be mandated and can yield better results. Thank you for all your work. I enjoy reading and following NL.
Thank you, Ankit.
Method Man says from the Discord server, the very defunct Discord server we have. Glad to know somebody's on it. Abhinandan, thank you for clearing up the distinction between undemocratic leaders, Modi Shah, erosion of values, and this is the last election narrative. In my opinion, if this isn't a democracy, there's no point discussing it on a podcast. While I entirely agree that Modi Shah are not instinctive Democrats, I think circumstances force them to be so. So question, which Indian leader do you think was a Democrat by instinct? After the freedom struggle generation. Yeah, I was just going to point at freedom struggle.
Nehru,
yeah, me too. As an exam marker, recently students at a top-tier professional college submitted pages of squiggles. The students were obviously hoping that they would be rewarded for bulk. Jayashree Ram might be the same. Regarding EVMs...
One thing, Sri Ram is an aberration. With all your hyperbole, whoever wrote in... It's an aberration. It's not a norm in India that you get... So this normalization that writing this slogan, a religious slogan, gets you passing marks is an aberration. It is an exception even in India.
Regarding EVMs, do you think returning to paper is better? Which ballot stuffing and invalidation of votes? With ballot stuffing and invalidation of votes. 1 year in, what is going on with Wire Meta tech fog? What consequences should Siddharth Vadrajan and Janvi Sen face, in your opinion? You have a Discord server. I think there are probably 10 of us left. Why keep it?
So your last question, the Discord server, we've really tried to get everybody, including me, into the habit of using it. It's just something that none of us got around to, none of us got into it. So I guess we're just so invested in responding to our subscribers like this and in subscriber meets. And in those, every quarter we have those little Zoom calls, etc. And chat box. It just, no reason, Method Man, we just never got into it. Regarding others, I think the best system is EVM with 100% VVPAT validation. I think that's very important. And I don't see why that can't happen. Regarding tech fog, I mean, in any news organization, this is not the first time this has happened in any news organization. You do you withdraw the story, you put out an apology.
You put out a clarification.
And that is what's been, and there's not something that it's new that's happened. It's just that it is in such a polarized environment. But every other day I've seen Times, Express, and, clarification. And sometimes they use someone's name and someone's photograph, and sometimes the whole story is false.
They had an internal inquiry, but we don't know what really happened to that. I mean, they didn't put out the findings of it, but there is that FIR against the reporter. Actually, the case is completely
Yeah, I mean, basically, it is, what's that guy, Amit Malviya's defamation against
which
them.
Is also in cold storage.
Yeah, it's in cold storage.
RS says, with regards to Manisha's response to my previous letter, I would just like to say that dumb down actually means simplifying the message and not that someone is dumb. Manisha's assumption that I'm South Indian on a high horse is just example of how complex issues are unnecessarily simplified. I'm probably as...
What did you say, Manisha?
I'm probably as South Indian. I think I'm turning out to be a cowbelt supremacist during elections. I really... No.
Pandey ji piye whiskey.
Pandey to fir wo Brahmin supremacy. But I really think that Bihar and UP are just randomly bad-mouthed. And I am really against it.
Inko number one state.
No, I think the kind of, honestly, the kind of people you meet and especially students. No, their political awareness at another level. You will not find this in many states. Punjab
you go to Kerala to तुम मलयालम में बोलती हो ना जाके वहाँ.
नहीं, English में बोला था, but even
that's the thing. No, you're not talking to them in their languages.
जाके मोतीहारी में English में बोल के आओ तुम.
Obviously, you'll not find them.
Lucknow University also has spoken English to them, but I think...
No, but I say you're cut off from a huge section of how people think when you don't speak to them in the regional language.
But let the Bihari also come in.
No. Just on a lighter note and for trivia, Motihari and English, George Orwell was born in
Motihari. Yes, that's how I'm saying also.
No, but I'm not saying that they aren't good, but I just think that UP Bihar is vilified too much, so I think I will take it on as a duty to always side by them and by their political awareness.
One fact that is like a stand against so-called authoritarianism. One fact that you can dig from history is that after 1977, in the 1977 elections after emergency, most of the South Indian states voted for Congress, and it was the northern states which voted out Indira Gandhi.
All we are missing is Rajshri Sen to come here and say that everyone shut up.
It was North
Bengal
India
rocks.
that voted out Indira.
We're just missing Rajshri.
I'll say it on her behalf.
No, I'm saying that even if a student, say in Lucknow University, would criticize Modi, they would be able to explain very factually what's happening on the ground and why, certain things are working out for them. So it's more refreshing. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you a South Indian on a high horse, but that was reference to my South Indian friends on a high horse.
Okay.
And he says, hope this clarifies any feelings of hurt. No hurt. On a different note, I'm quite impressed with the election coverage and I was happy to switch to the NL-TNM joint subscription, which my previous subscription came up for.
When
my previous subscription came up for renewal recently.
But you've skipped one very important line where he said, Manisha's assumption that I am South Indian on a high horse is just another example of how complex issues are unnecessarily simplified. I am probably as South Indian as Abhinandan Sekhri. I resent that, RS.
Yeah, how
I'm
dare
very
you?
South Indian. Ayyayyo. Ayyayyo vanda.
Third rice also you should add.
And here we end the podcast, guys.
Here we end the podcast. After pissing off every community. If you haven't been offended yet, please stand in line.
Ayush says, hi team, great work on election coverage in Surat and some other superb reports by Basant. But I still feel NL didn't capture the ground reality well this election so far. But this could be due to the 7-phased election. The South coverage has been great along with News Minute. My main request today, to see how we can focus on data-based journalism. Rukmini S has a great new website, Data for India. Actually, we should call her for one of the shows. Also, Poonam has done a great job challenging the data put out by Election Commission so far. The absolute numbers are missing, which is further worrying given their clearly perceived subservience so far. My one question to the panel on Modi's speeches would be, would he be banned under an impartial EIC for his anti-Muslim comments? Overall, happy to be a subscriber for many years now and hoping your strength and reach grows manifold from here. Ban to pata nahi, but definitely suspend to kiya hota.
Yeah, I mean, had he not been Modi, he would definitely be suspended. Like, for 48 hours, they suspended Chandrababu Naidu. Who did they suspend for 48 hours? Telangana. Oh, right. Correct.
And for example, what happened with the Karnataka ad? Did the Election Commission send them a notice or nothing?
Twitter was asked to pull it down, but that's about it.
I mean, that was also very, very...
No, also, Nadda
very
was summoned, but he didn't do. Then he was summoned a second time. I mean, I don't know if anything happened. Right. I mean, this Election Commission has really disgraced itself.
Hassam Kroya. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name. But Hassam says, trust me, I'm with you when it comes to acknowledging the danger Prime Minister Modi poses to our country's democracy. However, there's a very thin line between journalism to uncover the truth and media's bias being projected onto citizens. Through your tremendous hard work over the years, you have earned great respect from and power of making people stand up and pay attention to what you have to say. But it's your responsibility to not use it lightly, lest you may end up becoming the ones you loathe the most. Just my opinion, you can totally ignore or tell me if I'm wrong. Oh, sorry, I missed the key part that this is reference to a thumbnail.
So I don't know what is the thumbnail here though.
Let's see it.
No, but it's just playing the video. Thumbnail? I can't see the thumbnail.
Oh, the thumbnail is basically it is
who is a serial offender? I think this is that one, no?
Atul's show from Jadavpur University where a girl is saying that Modi is a serial offender.
I think the thumbnail says who is a serial offender or something like that, if I remember correctly.
So what he's saying is that this
it says Modi ji is a serial offender, the thumbnail.
Something like that.
She's saying we should not say such stuff, that Modi ji is a serial offender. Okay.
Okay, noted, Hassan.
Okay.
Okay, now this is Nahar.
I'm guessing.
Nahar, although I have a nephew also called Nahar. She's from Nepal. Nahar has put a 565-word email. He's explained, first of all, he's asking like, is first past the post system the best way to elect leaders? I'll just explain what it is. And then he said there are alternative systems such as proportional representation, which is PR, then mixed member proportion, which is MMP, which is a combination of first past the post and proportional representation, and ranked choice voting system, which is RCV, which allows voters to rank candidates in order of preference. So after a certain amount of chunk of votes have gone for the first, then the second is picked, etc., etc. So he said that, what do you think is the best? Like, I think the best is actually the method of runoffs. I think that runoffs is truly representative. But it's time consuming, it's expensive. I don't know how practical it is. And I think that's only possible in a presidential system. You can't have a runoff at every considering. Runoff is, suppose, I mean, whoever wins has to get over 50%. So the three of us we get 30, 30, 30 each. Okay, then we're equal. Suppose I get 20 and both of them get 40 each. Then I'm out. Then it's just both of them in.
And then we have to get more than 50.
And then you have to get
So
more
France has that, right?
Yeah. So I think that truly democratically, that is the most effective system. I don't know how practical it is.
But for such a large country, I don't know.
Yeah, it's also possible. It's for a presidential. You can't have every MP now. You can only do it for the president.
All methods of voting were debated in the Constituent Assembly, and the winning logic for the first passport system was first that we are introducing adult franchise, and we have to go for a simple method, and because explaining this would be difficult for first of a country having adult franchisee for the first time. Second is that India already had in indirect way an experience of this because it was following the British pattern of voting. So these two arguments clinched it in favor of the first passport, the system in the Constituent Assembly. That's why we went with this.
Right. I mean, but yeah, Nahar, to your point that sometimes someone who's just got 25% of the votes can win and is considered representing the country. I think that's flawed, but like, I don't know who said, and democracy is the least flawed system of governance we have.
And that is also because opposition has always been very strong in India because of that only.
Right.
Because the governing parties, the ruling parties, more often than not have less than 50% posts. So opposition at national level or state level has never been weak in India.
Right.
It has always been a challenge to mobilize that.
Correct.
Anonymous says, Dear NL Hafta team, I'm writing to express my sincere appreciation for your exceptional news coverage. As a 12th grader, I rely on your platform to stay informed on important matters. Particularly appreciate Hafta, Tippani, TV Nuisance, in-depth analysis, investigative reporting, focus on local news. Your reporting keeps me engaged and helps me understand the complexities of the world around me.
Thank you, Anonymous.
12th grader.
Please tell your other friends that we give free subscriptions to students, and we expect you to, when you're earning members of society, to pay it forward and pay to keep news free.
Renu Jha says, I like the discussion reports on elections.
First of all, Renu Jha, 236 words.
She says that it was nice, the one that we did from Bangalore with Maya Sharma and Srinivas Raju, Sugata. Curiously, Renu feels that with Srinivasan, Jain and News Minute, it's possible for us to get more right-wing views.
Really?
No, she's saying that she likes she got a BJP spokesperson. So therefore, maybe bigger teams are able to invite
but
more diverse views.
I mean, yeah, it's not a correlation I'd draw though with Srinivasan Jain and News Minute that we'd have the possibility of more right. Anyway, I agree with Manisha that neither the BJP nor Congress may have known the extent of the scandal. That's the Prajwal Revanna scandal. And she says that I heard on Neta Nagri Lallantop that these allegations, rumors have been around for 2 years. Somebody within or close to the family knew this. In fact, News Minute is doing a very good series on this. You guys can catch that.
In fact, they are really following the story up well.
So she says the morals of those who knew about this and did nothing is the real question. There were people around who could have prevented this from happening and they didn't. Congress blaming BJP, BJP blaming Congress is just bizarre. As he comes from an important family, it's unlikely that he will be punished for this. Only the violence on the women, if all this is true, is real and will be long lasting. Baki sab news cycle and real politics ke saath change ho jayega.
Yeah, but
I hope not. We will keep up the pressure at least.
I mean, the extent of this horror is, if after this also nothing happens, really, it often makes you really think that is anything even possible.
Roger says, hello, please see this as a cathartic exercise for some concerns. Rahul and Manisha. Surprised that
Which Rahul is this?
Gandhi, I'm guessing.
Gandhi.
Okay.
Surprised her views on Rahul, especially given her positive view of Prashant Kishore as a politician. I don't think I've ever said Prashant Kishore was a politician because, I mean, it'll take some time for us to say that. Besides Yatra's engagement with public, a much improved SM game, what else is needed to appreciate Rahul's efforts given the mountains he climbs against the Pappu tag and news blackout? So I've never at least said, but I just think with Prashant Kishore, there's either an overestimation of what he's able to achieve for parties, and that's true for all political consultants. It's like these shadowy operators who can just turn your fortunes, which I just think is exaggerated. To then these spineless folks who just move from one party to the other and have. So I don't agree with either of those. And like I'd said in the previous podcast also, the Pappu tag is really what we are hearing. People generally don't look at him as Pappu. This is not a conversation that is happening on the ground. And I don't think he has to fight that tag on the ground because people don't see him as that. In fact, like Rae Bareli, I'm very confident he'll win Rae Bareli. And a lot of people you talk to would say that, look, we want a strong opposition leader to be voted from Rae Bareli, so we'll send him to. Of course, it's a Congress bastion and all that. But there's still an appreciation of the fact that he's a tall opposition leader. Baki, my criticism bahut ho gaya hai, so I don't want to keep repeating it. But I don't think he's very effective in his communication. And like I said, I think this election, there was a lot that could have gone against Modi in terms of, but it hasn't. So I would blame the opposition for that. Anyway, EVMs and Anand believe the digital payments analogy is false as people who don't trust it have alternative mediums. Germany has a low uptake for digital and so it is in line with their stand on voting. Inheritance tax, UK has a 325k threshold, which is 3.3 crore.
No, inheritance was not my bit, but I will respond to that.
EVM. While each country can define thresholds, the discussion assumed that this is only for the ultra-rich, which isn't the case in Europe. I believe that it cannot be levied in India with EU thresholds without the government providing social security. Yeah, that's also a huge aspect of Europe. Like there's good social security, heavy taxation, but nuclear power.
Okay, so
yeah, we'll just finish the email, then you can respond.
Nuclear power पे भी आपने कुछ बोला है कि Europe overreacted to Fukushima incident.
No,
and
that is me.
That's you.
That is me.
No,
Wait, let me finish. Europe overreacted to the Fukushima incident and oversteered towards fossil and dependence on Russia. Just FYI, the opinion is changing with 11 EU countries calling to fully unlock the potential of nuclear. Great work. Apologies if the tone is terse. No need for apologies.
Intent was to keep it short and cover the 4 points. Cheers, Roger. Yeah, go ahead, Anand.
No, I think analogy can be inaccurate or accurate, not true or false. But what I meant is also your point that digital payment always has absence is not correct, at least in India. I pay university fee only through digital. There is no other means. You cannot pay cash for that. And for a lot of examinations also, now most of public examination you have to pay the fee just by digital transaction. So in a lot of very crucial aspects of life in India, digital is the only way. They have made government as well in private sector. I don't know whether for your subscriptions there is cash payment or not, but I don't know any. So
हमें जाके ना चादर लगा के ले हमारो ऐप पे आ जाए न्यूज़लैंड्री सब्सक्रिप्शन है 3 डायलॉग के बैंगन है.
Very good, yeah. It's very good impression.
Second point is that the German constitutional court's point was that even if one person has a skepticism and he is not an expert and as a layman he cannot be explained. So if you need some special knowledge or expertise, technological expertise to be explained the voting process, it has to be discarded. Now, my point was that a lot of things would not move ahead with that. You trust your body to doctors by knowing nothing about the medical procedure. You trust your money with banks. That was the point I am making. Also, for different countries, the processes evolve differently, and for a country of India's scale and the kind of distrust people had with the ballot when the electoral banditry was that the origin of EVM was there. So means electoral democracies evolved in different directions.
Also, I think in India, sometimes what happens is we when we're seeing a cost benefit analysis, two things: we see the ideal situation in one and the flawed situation in the other. For example, paper ballots. I mean, many of you watching haven't seen the video of the mayhem. What was Devilal's son's name? Chautala. When his men battered. I mean, that's the first time. Now, of course, you see these videos of people dying very often. When Newslaundry got the first footage of a guy being hammered to death with luts, during a takeover of a ballot. It was like, and then stuffing ballots or setting fire, so dropping ink in them. Even that was very flawed. So we can't say, so when you're saying that we should go back to that, that will also have to be embraced, flaws and all. So it's, it's a complicated one, but yeah, one thing that helps is transparency, and Election Commission has failed to provide that. It is a failure as an institution right now. Whether it does paper, whether it does electric, this Election Commission should not be overseeing anything, not even a, class monitor election, in my view. They've just been a disaster in messaging, in coming up clean on. I have never seen in my life an Election Commission that is so scared of answering questions that they don't give any press conference. Pehle to they used to keep giving.
And one more thing which has been disturbing, in every election, this kind of stories that we are hearing about the police getting in conflict with the voters. I think that's really something that is cause for alarm, and there should be more attention to that.
Yeah, they're paying attention.
Because people are complaining that we've been asked for more IDs.
Of course.
Muslim neighborhoods. So that, you can't let that pass.
They have registered the case on this burqa thing.
But that the state government has done. The
Election Commission has served her notice. I read there.
But
also,
but it all hinges on if something goes viral.
Also, I have a different
pushback.
I have a different take on MCC implementation, the legal part of it. Why Election Commission has that position? I have written a piece. I would recommend that, because that would be a long discussion.
Then it's in a link below. We'll read a couple of other emails and then we'll stop for the...
Yeah, we can read a few, I think.
The small ones, yeah.
I can be very quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Manan Shah says, continuing discussion on Nota of the last letter, I get Manisha's point. What if Nota wins? Then there should be provision for re-election with complete new nominations, and older contestants should be banned from contesting next election, because voting is our constitutional right and every citizen should get to exercise it. If unopposed candidate will be declared winner so easily, this will be normalized in future. You all know there are Bahubalis contesting elections in our country. They just have to go to homes of all the people and ask them to withdraw the nomination and it'll be done. As Abhinandan says, that's my rant of the week.
Thank you, Manan.
Amitabh Bachchan has written into us T800.
T800.
In Hafta 483, what Manisha said about Modi using Mangal Sutra against minorities has some logic. People are attributing a lot of things to me which I haven't said. I don't think I said it's logical that he said this. This sounds highly unlike me. Please point out when I said this. Maybe I meant that it connects with what people believe in. One has to remember that Modi is an RSS pracharak, and RSS will always keep the Hindus united over other threats such as Muslims, Christians and communists. Golwalkar talked about this in Bunch of Thoughts. RG is trying to replicate the Dravidian model at a nationalist level by talking about caste census and wealth redistribution model. Modi is using welfare and Hindu unity to attract voters. RG is using social justice and more welfare to attract the same set of voters. Hence, Modi was somewhere forced to escalate to polarization. I've written about this in my personal blog. I can reproduce under anonymity if interested. Thank you.
Anonymity. Yes, please do send it T800.
Siddhan says, agree with Manisha that bashing North Indians is pointless. It distracts from a much broader question, which Hindu society at large will have to reckon with. How did we allow RSS's hateful ideology to establish itself so deeply in our collective psyche? How can we reverse that? That answer will be region-specific, but we will have to deal with it before it's too late. Before we, like many Israelis, find ourselves celebrating wholesale dehumanization of fellow humans. We're well on our way. There are multiple reports of suppression of Muslim voters, but many seem to be carrying on as if this is business as usual. I recommend They Thought They Were Free, a book about how regular citizens in Nazi Germany found themselves being complicit in the Holocaust.
Yeah. In fact, there's the literature on this around Rwanda, which is way more recent, is fascinating. In fact, I had recommended that in one of my, how people and media had a lot to do with normalized, killing someone because they were of a different community or belief.
Anonymous says, thanks Abhinandan for reading out my letter and discussion regarding closure of Rohit Vemula's case. I'm a woman, as you referred to me as a he.
My bad, sorry, my male default setting.
The day the closure report was filed, all Godi channels screamed Rohit Vemula not a Dalit. Smriti Irani, Amit Shah were also seen on Republic TV, as the stakes are high for BJP in this case. As a Dalit, I'm aware of what a Dalit student goes through in college campuses. Rohit was an outspoken student activist, and I can understand how he would have suffered. It takes a lot of inner strength to be outspoken about Dalit identity, and I have immense respect for people like Anurag Minus Verma, Yashika, and many more from the younger generation who are doing great. On Saturday, 12th May Pooja Prasanna released her Let Me Explain on this topic.
Yeah, please watch it. Link is in the show notes below.
Before I conclude, I appreciate Abhinandan's point of view on merit. Anyone who treats Dalit realities with empathy melts my heart.
Thank you for your support, Anonymous.
Yeah,
You're too
very
kind with
sweet
your
letter.
praise for us. I think we can do way
Ravi
better.
Ravi Prasad has said he watched Broken News and was blown away by the fact it's so... People are really saying good things about this. We should watch it because hardly any media shows get it right. So,
Right.
Says old regular subscriber, Royal Enfield with NL sticker guy.
Yay, go buddy, Ravi.
Please promote pasting the sticker on cars and bikes as it's an effective way of branding and awareness.
Yeah, please. I mean, we have stickers. This is what it looks like. So write in to us, Abhinandan Sekhri at newslaundry.com or subscriptions@newslaundry.com. Order these stickers, put on your car, man. I get a lot of waves and thumbs up because of that sticker.
Siddharth Sachdev says, Dear News Laundry, at a time when legacy news media is failing its mandate, it is subscriber-led models like News Laundry that are emerging like Zetio. What is Zetio?
I have no idea.
What is Zetio?
No clue.
She should know.
I am
I'm
on
assuming,
the Google, don't worry.
I'm assuming it's like some sci-fi thing. Which
Substack. It's like a Substack. Zetio is a new media organization that seeks to answer questions that really matter.
It's that Mehdi Hasan's new one.
Oh, I see. Okay.
How is NL different from similar organizations like it globally? I attended the screening of While We Watched at Alliance Française. I was deeply impressed and happy to see NL staff being so determined about their work. Thank you for the effort. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Siddharth. I don't know anything about Zetio, so I don't know if you're different or not, but I will have to study Zetio a little bit to answer that question. But thank you for your support, and I hope we met and shook hands at the screening. But if you're around next, come say hi. I'll read one last email because it's only 27 words. Khushbu, you truly put your point through in such few words. Salute to you. Thank you, Anand Hafta, for your work. I'm working on appreciating good work more, and I've particularly enjoyed your contribution, especially Manisha's. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
I really like this. She's saying she's working on being more appreciative.
Yeah, so she's making an effort.
And we made it to her list of...
We did.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. That's really...
Thank you. So you can share your feedback at podcasts@newslaundry.com. I repeat, podcasts@newslaundry.com. Please put Hafta in the subject. And please make sure you're a subscriber. Otherwise, you don't entertain your mails. So let's get the recommendations for the week. Jayashree, you want to go first?
Yes, I have 4, but I will do them very quickly. So the first is, we've been talking about free, fair election. What does it mean? What is the Election Commission doing? So I thought there was a very good and detailed piece by Parnivel Tyagarajan in Frontline, which he talks about what are the necessary and sufficient conditions that must be ensured by an election commission. He lists out the prerequisites, like including all the processes that has to be followed and where he thinks that we are going wrong. So it's very good as a sort of primer on what is an election, how should it work, and what is not happening. So it's called Election Commission Ushers India to its Electoral Nadir. So that's in Frontline. My second recommendation we briefly mentioned, but it's one of the News Minute stories on the Revana case. For instance, it talks about a 47-year-old woman who worked on one of their properties 6 years ago. She was a domestic worker and she'd borrowed money from the family. And she was molested, she says, by H.D. Revana and raped by his son. So she says, I wanted to scream, but who would believe what I had to say? I had to keep working there as I had to repay my loan. I wouldn't have been able to live in society with my head held high. My kids wouldn't have gotten married if I had shared I was assaulted. And it's a very distressing sort of story to read, but I think it's important to read something like this, which so meticulously documents what this case is about. The headline is Silenced by Fear, Survivors Reveal Years of Abuse in the Revana Household. My next 2 recommendations are more cheerful. So one, I know everyone goes on about The Bear, which is a very good show. But before The Bear, there was this short film called Boiling Point by Stephen Graham. It was, I think, a BBC movie. But I'm not recommending that. I am recommending a spin-off TV show based on that short film. It's called Boiling Point. It is a mini-series. It is just 4 episodes on BBC Player, and it is fantastic. So it is, again, sort of behind the scenes of a restaurant, but it combines like so many issues, including like loneliness and friendship and what's, sort of under hectic and chaotic work conditions. And it's a brilliant watch. And like, I was crying through it. I was laughing. It was really, really stressful. And I'm very bad with anxious shows, but that's only 4 episodes. Then I was like, yes, I can manage. I will power through it, even though I'm weeping over my dinner. So it's great. So please watch it. It's on BBC Player, which is an add-on on Amazon Prime Video.
Who was sitting next to you when you were crying and laughing?
I mean, sadly, it was my husband who had to watch this sort of shit show play out.
I always, whenever I'm watching anything with someone who starts crying, my whole thing is gone.
Why?
Gone? What does that mean?
As in, I'm not watching. Then which is where
Rashid. Somebody else is crying upsets you.
No, it's like, where Rashid, I'm thinking, will people think that have I fucking done something? Why is she crying? Because she'll cry.
See, that's why if I'm crying alone in my house, I don't worry about
say like Chennai Express. Secondly, you're like,
why would she cry in Chennai Express?
I don't know. Some people.
Although I
wept in anger.
Then I'm like, so whenever someone sitting next to me starts crying, I'm like, okay, am I supposed to say it's okay? I'm like, fuck, man, I'm never coming with this person. That's what I'm thinking.
See, so the great thing is that my partner also cries. So
then you're fine.
Then we have company. Anyway, so my last recommendation is a fantastic book. It is called The Will of the Many by James Islington. So it's classified as high fantasy because it's built around the concept of the Roman Empire, which I know sounds like a very boring selling point. But, okay, so it's in this sort of magical imagined society where lower classes must cede part of themselves called their will to those above them in a hierarchy. This fugitive teenager goes on the run. He's sent on a secret quest which takes him into an elite school. But he also has his own personal agenda of trying to bring down society. So, but the word building is excellent. The magic system is great. The pacing is fantastic. Even though it's a very long book, I think it's like 650 words. Also be clever. Don't be like me. Start reading it only in a few weeks because then part 2 will be out. And then you won't have to wait for the sequel. So yes, this book is called The Will of the Many. Please buy it.
Good tip. Manisha?
Yeah. So, Yamini Iyer and Nilanjan Sirkar's piece, Social Media's Impact on Indian Politics, was interesting. Although I think there's much to be explored there. Maybe we should, in just the 2 weeks that is left of this election. Baby Reindeer, very creepy, interesting show on Netflix that I watched. It was quite nice. I want to plug quite a few things from Newslaundry. I hope you guys are catching Claim versus Reality with Srinivasan Jain. I think his episode with Brij Bhushan was very nice, immensely watchable, and just the questioning and just that whole election is just so absurd. I think it's very succinctly done and very, very nice to watch. The series that we are doing on schemes, I know and Jayashree's been editing them very expertly.
Thank you guys.
We have 2 more left. It's a long read, but I really think it's something that you should spend your time reading. Because
also want to just hat tip to Shambhavi and Manjul's artwork and our design team. Very good artwork.
Yeah, the design team has done a great job, and there's a lot of visualization along with these pieces. And since schemes are such a central part of this election, I think it's good to read what we've put out. It's very, very detailed and, very, very good series. Catch that. In defense of my conversations with Lucknow University students, please watch it. It's not just Trivedi, Dubes and Pandes that I'm talking to. Far from it. It's a diverse bunch of people. Though I'd agree that most of them are probably not Modi voters, so they're not that diverse in that sense. But even so, it's a very interesting conversation. So those are my recommendations.
Anand?
Okay. So I am returning to the more important things in life, that is death.
God. More important things in life, that is death.
So there was a piece about the right to pass away, which is like 70% of Indians suffering incurable diseases die in ICUs far away from their home and families, with their families watching and in no communication with them. So there is a piece by Dr. M. Rajagopal and some Sarma is there. Also, they have co-authored it. They have talked about the right to pass away. Second, my recommendation is about Abhinav Chandrachud, who is a lawyer and son of the Chief Justice. He has written about now this North-South. I thought about this recommendation when
because of Manisha's bigotry.
So he has written about
bigotry.
So it may add to the bigotry. So
yeah, they're the North Block. They're the cow belt, both of them.
I like that you are now suddenly aligned with the South.
Yeah,
nothing is wrong.
But you are also हमारे team का Punjab.
He took he takes a historical look on the 16th Amendment when during it is also linked to election. During election campaign, the DMK and some parties in Punjab also were on this secessionist agenda of what is again now in fashion about Dravid land. So it was seen as secessionist by the Nehru government, and after Nehru passed away, I think in 1963 they brought the Congress government they had planned earlier but brought a constitutional amendment, and one of the exception to freedom of speech that you see now, one of the 8 about sovereignty, that the freedom of speech should not violate sovereignty of India, that was brought through that was one of the last exceptions. So he has written about that what is the genesis of that. And so it revives this debate in a very constitutional way. So it's in Hindu business line perhaps.
Right. My recommendation for the week, one is, it's a long read in The Guardian by Atul Dev. It is a profile of Amit Shah. Read and share at your own peril.
Is that the headline?
No, it says he likes scaring people. How Amit Shah,
that would be such a great headline.
Modi's right-hand man, runs India. The first paragraph is, late one night in November 2005, a small group of plainclothes police officers pulled over a bus in Western India. They escorted off a man named Sohrabuddin Sheikh, who was joined on the side of the road by his wife, Kausar. Sheikh and Kausar were put into separate police cars and driven 600 miles away across state lines into Gujarat. They would never be seen again. So it's a piece that really paints Amit Shah as this sinister person to be very scared of, and he's this mafia don image. So it's a good read. It's well researched, and no Indian publication could ever write this. So that is one. And the second is not just the one piece. I think the one piece which is very interesting was ethical question media, comma, language in Prajwal Revana coverage, which is, I mean, you're talking about sexual violence and rape, but yet the language, the grammar of coverage is sexual, or, I mean, it's an interesting, but overall the News Minutes coverage of this issue, please, they've done, I think, already 5 pieces on this, if I'm not wrong. They are pursuing the story. Please do continue to.
Yeah, and I think they will pursue it beyond elections.
They will for sure pursue it beyond elections. So do subscribe to News Minute as well. They're doing some fantastic work. On that note, I would like to thank our producer Aryan and our sound recordist Anil. Do go out and vote wherever you are. I am part of one of these youth organizations, because even I'm youth, baby. Who wanted...
It's like how Stalin was 60 years old and they called him a youth leader.
They said, you also be a youth icon and please vote. So
when do you cease to be a youth icon? Like, what is the age cutoff in India?
Stalin stopped being youth leader when his father died. It took him that long.
So. Okay. I'll tell my father Jayashree was saying this.
No. I did not at all mean that. That's very, very bleak. So, never.
But I'm very excited about this week's song, because it is a song recommendation that goes out, in my view, from Arvind Kejriwal to Yogi Adityanath. Ever since he got Yogi to do a googly on the entire electoral campaign. So until next week, stay safe, enjoy the weekend. Adios, amigos.
Enjoy.